the next generation of journalists. You know, we talked about education, we talked about all these things. And today, we are talking about media and self-migration. And in this very room, we have experts, we have great scholars, the academia is here, NGOs are here. I mean, oh my goodness. Can you imagine what's about to happen? Yes? I look forward to that. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into it, I don't want to preempt the conversation. It's only fair that I call the CEO of Media Challenge Initiative, Mr. Mpindi Abbas, to officially welcome us to the Media Hub once again, as well as, you know, set the tone for day 2.
Hello. Clap once if you can hear me. Clap twice if you can hear me. Clap thrice if you can hear me. Good. Good morning. Today is very emotional because of what's going to happen. So I'm very excited for what we're about to witness today, not just in terms of the discussions and conversations, but in terms of what we'll be launching. So I want to take this opportunity to thank the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, represented here by Anna and Alina. Please wave. Because this is a special dedication and special partnership with CAS Uganda for this day. So the way the Expo has been structured this year is that we work with different partners, and all our partners have dedicated themselves to specific days. For those who were not here yesterday, we talked about the legacy of MCI and the impact that we created. And we had a huge number of alumni who came in to share their experiences, but also tell us, you know, how they think that they're changing their communities. One of the most outstanding things yesterday was, especially for us as conveners of these communities, to see how far we've come and the community of young journalists that we've built that's out there in different media houses and in different organizations working to create change. And there was also the other thing that stood out were the very important conversations around the role of the media in shaping the future of the continent. So if this is your first time here, welcome to MCI Media Hub. But the most important thing that I want you to stop and think about is the future of the continent and where we're going, or let's say the future of Uganda, or even just the future of your community. We live so much in the now. We don't think about the next 10 and the next 30 and the next 50 years. So the work that we do here is mainly, looks like we are working now, but what actually we're doing is thinking about 10, 30, 50 years from now. For those who will come before us and what they will find in place. So today, what we're launching is a testimony to that. That what we're thinking about is the change that we want to see in the next many, many years. And that has to do with how the world will see Uganda, how the world will see the continent. It's important that we think about it because we are not just reporters, especially for young journalists, which I said yesterday. We don't just cover events. We are setting the agenda. We are shaping mindsets. We are shaping narratives. And most importantly, we are recording history. So for every story today, it might be an entertainment story. Tomorrow and years to come, it will be in the cultural archives of a certain blog or a certain platform. And the children of your children will read about that, right? It's an honor specifically to have a legend that a lot of you young people may not know about, but Joram here has pioneered the fashion and entertainment industry. And yeah, please clap for Joram. And so when we speak about fashion, entertainment, the modeling world, you might be, as a young journalist, why should I even care, right? Today you're going to know why you should care, right? Not just in terms of the employment opportunities you've built, but in terms of setting the pace and setting trends and showing people that it's not about, just being on the runway. It's a process that you've put young women and men through. And in the context of migration that we are discussing today is how you have managed to move young people safely, legally, but also being their mentor throughout that process, right? And we also want to see, is that something that can be replicated as a best practice or example for others? So I'm really glad that you accepted this invitation and you're here. But the other thing is today, which I don't want to reveal soon, but we'll be launching something very special. So I will request you, especially you can be distracted, phones here and there, Facebook here and there. But I want you today to really just get moments where you can just say the next 1 hour, I will focus on the panel or I will focus on the activities here. So that at the end of the day, when you go back home as a student or at school and they ask you, what did you experience at the MCI Media Hub? You know, right? So without much further ado, let me open this day and ask our host, Tracy, to introduce our first panel and what will happen next. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bas Mpindi. A huge round of applause for the man behind the 5 days. So it is going to be an amazing couple of days. Tell your neighbor to be here till Friday. Be here till Friday. Because if you think today is it, then you have no idea what's about to happen for the next couple of days. We have a great lineup for the next couple of days, but particularly today, we'll be talking about media and safe migration. We'll be talking about, SDGs being powered by local collaborative journalism, and that alone is exciting. Now, of course, for our newsroom teams, please pay particular attention to today, because some of these stories might be the deal breaker between you and the grand prize at the grand finale of the National Newsroom Contest. Again, today we'll be launching something special like the CEO talked about. But wait, you have no idea. We also have a great production coming up. Just pay attention. Today will require a little bit of energy in the room. So I hope you have some energy within you. Did you come with some energy? Did the coffee work? Do you need more coffee? I mean, yeah? Yes, Anna needs more coffee. Who else needs something stronger? No, I'm kidding. I was kidding. Absolutely. Did I say? No, I meant coffee, strictly. It's going to be a great session coming up. But ladies and gentlemen, I would love to actually invite our first moderator for the first panel. He is widely known as Big Boy Shark. Is a multifaceted talent making waves in the entertainment industry. He works, with NRG Radio, captivating audiences with his engaging voice and vibrant personality. He is a poet. Yes? Wamma Kampala. No one was here when that was being, oh my goodness, you need to do a redo of that beautiful poem. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Big Boy Shark.
Hello, hello. Hi. Good morning. All right. Before we kickstart this off, I really appreciate this moment. Just a few years ago, I was seated around just like you are, and I'm really honored to be before you today. It's a big thing. It's a fulfilling moment on my end, and thank you so much for being around. So as we kickstart this session, that is safe migration, and we're spotlighting migration runway stories by Joram Model Management. We're gonna have a beautiful video play, a production, as we get to start this.
Our babies. When we develop them, we have their paperwork ready, we do their visas, we make sure they have the right permits, the right papers, the right everything, so that we don't skip anything when it comes to anything to do with immigration. My name is Joram Muzire Job, and I work as the Creative Director / CEO for JMM, that's Joram Model Management. And we've been in this business for the past 11 years, changing and transforming so many lives of young girls, young boys, and also changing the status quo and narrative of fashion in this country. The reason as to why I decided to open up this agency was I wanted to see diversity in the fashion industry, because by the time we started, there were not so many models of color. Like literally you would count black models that were walking internationally.
My name is Narot Khan Mazia. I'm 21 years old. I'm a person that's passionate about law. Me, I love anything to do with fashion and design. And the only way that I felt like I would picture myself there was to become a model, because there was no way I was going to pursue a degree in law or anything to do with law and at the same time doing fashion and design.
We do a lot of scouting tours, a lot of scouting tours. I think every single year we do almost like 10 scouting tours. A lot of local scouting tours here in Uganda, because let's be realistic, Uganda is very versatile. You're going to find Ethiopians, Eritreans, Indians, Ugandans, South Sudanese, like the country is very, very versatile. So when they come in, you know, we definitely look at them and we see, do they have exactly what it takes to be an international model? Because we've specialized so much in high fashion models. These are models that you're going to be seeing a lot working in New York, in Paris, in London, and then in Milan. We partner with so many agencies in all the fashion capitals of the world: London, Paris, Milan, New York, and we are the mother agent. So usually when you are the mother agent, it's literally you being the mom of these models. So we take care of them right from, you know, when they're flying out, their expenses, their pocket money, their well-being, and we're constantly checking on them to know, are they okay? Are they doing very well? But then the most beautiful thing is that we do this in partnership with the agents the other side. So when they go international, the agents keep us posted on every little thing that they're doing.
After the scouting, I underwent a development task with Joram and the team, like Joram Model Management and the team. So after that development, he got me international agencies, and then I got signed. Now I traveled for my first season in September.
It's so much that it takes for someone to leave their native countries to go international. But thank God, us as mother agents at JMM, what we've done is, for the past 10 years that we've been in the business, we are collaborating a lot with a lot of the key industry players in this business, not just in Uganda, but then worldwide. Whereby you know that you're not just getting a young girl, getting all the paperwork done, shipping her internationally, and then she doesn't even have representation.
So before I traveled, of course, when they were getting me international agencies, they had to get me the best. They were really having my well-being at hand. So with that, they got me the best agency. So when I traveled, everything was on my international agency, of course. The air ticket, everything was on them. So when I was that side, they made sure that they called me all the time, all the time.
Another thing that we've done is we do a lot of mentorship classes. We've tailored so many master classes whereby when we discover a young girl, we make sure that it's not just, oh, she's amazing, put her on the plane and then go. She literally goes back to school, like literally the school of modeling, the school of fashion, and then they understand so much about the business. At the moment, we do have 25 girls that are working internationally, all of them huge success stories.
Bigger round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Now, allow me introduce our speaker for this panel. Now, he's a casting director. He's an award-winning international model scout. He's a pageant coach. He's a mentor and life coach, a fashion entrepreneur, a fashion show producer and director. He's a voiceover artist and also executive director of the Star Maker show series. And above all, the creative director at Joram Model Management. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Joram Muzira right here. Yes, Joram Muzira for you. Thank you so much. He actually came with his team. When we're starting this, he's going to introduce them and we also get to know them.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I want energy. I'm a very energetic human being. So ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed, I would love to introduce the team. It's a huge team, but you know, these are the core people that you see making all these big stars.
Hello, good morning. Okay, so my name is Swabra K. I guess I'm the manager at Joram Model Management, but I love to think of myself more than just operations manager. I actually enjoy being, he's gonna kill me for this, I enjoy being a model agent, right, more than the operations, because one of the things we do when we are working with these young people, with the models, right, because they have hopes and dreams. We do a lot of development classes. We do a lot of talent development in the models. Other than modeling, what else can you do? So we like to develop this in different individuals, and I enjoy it so much because I get to see them grow, see them grow, see them learn, make mistakes, learn from their mistakes, and grow to become even bigger than I am. Like, these girls are earning more money than I am. So, but I enjoy watching them grow. I enjoy telling the stories. I enjoy when they call me and they're like, I cannot believe that this is happening to me in my life. So I like to think of myself as a trainer, a talent manager, a model agent, but I am the manager, official manager at Joram Model Management. And I can't wait to hear what goes on today during the panel, because I'm always learning from Mr. Joram. The learning never stops with Mr. Joram. Ever since I started working with him, not necessarily with Joram Model Management, but when we were doing Miss Tourism, when we were doing Miss Uganda, Y+ pageant, since 2015, right? I always learn something from him. Even in the master classes, I always forget my duty post, because I'm standing at the back learning something new from Mr. Joram. So you guys are in for a treat today. Thank you so much. I'm over speaking. Let me let my colleague introduce herself. I'm excited, yeah.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Wow, so much energy in this room. Okay, my name is Nyacho Irene, and I work with Mr. Joram at Joram Model Management. I'm a multifaceted person. I hold a bachelor's degree in development economics, which has equipped me with the society progress. But my work and journey is way beyond the academic realm. I am a model, and I embody self-confidence, and I celebrate individuality, sorry about that. And as a model scout, I look for untapped talent, and I see the beauty in each and every one. And as a model coach, I'm dedicated to training these young girls to see their dreams come through in the international stages. And finally, I'm a video editor at Jaramodo Management and looking forward to manifesting visual depth. So today, I hope you're going to learn a lot from Mr. Joram, just like as my colleague says, every time you're with Joram, you learn something new. So buckle up and wait for the speech. Thank you.
Yes, a bigger round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Tim. Joram, please. All right. Now, fashion is something that really excites me because I feel like in everything I do, I'm really fashionable. Yeah.
See, I mean, look at how he's
Does
dressed.
somebody does somebody want to disagree with me? Right? Okay. As a fashion enthusiast, I have seen your work. You're amazing. You know, you have so much energy. You have so much enthusiasm in everything that you do. And then when it comes to your models, I have watched, by the sidelines. I've seen one of your models featuring on a Kim Kardashian campaign. And that is not a joke, yeah? We have seen your models walk runways in Milan, Paris, all those big runways for big, big designers, yeah? And that is something that we truly appreciate as, East Africa. Now, we want to find out from you, how do you navigate the balance between promoting East African fashion models globally and also ensuring their safe migration in foreign markets? Yeah.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, once again. So, a lot goes in when you are exporting global talent. Because the first thing that we do is we do a lot of masterclasses. When you get a fashion model or when you scout a talent, it doesn't happen automatically that they're going to be Naomi Campbell. They're going to be really huge deals. The first thing that we do is that most of them are really young, absolutely very, very young. Because the age group that we start scouting from is between the age group of 15, 16 up to 24. So the first thing that we do is to empower them to learn so much about the business. That is why we do so many masterclasses. We always have like different masterclasses where we teach these young girls about confidence building, self-esteem, personality, building a brand, understanding their rights, and also them understanding that this is a business. As much as so many people believe it's a hobby, it is a business. So just like how anyone else goes to school to be a lawyer, a doctor, name it all, we empower them in that aspect. So that is number one. So that they understand what they're signing for, what they're going into, and then that makes the work easier. And then number two, we make sure that everything is professional. Like their paperwork has to be really, really professional. Because before you ship anyone to work internationally, I mean, there's visas required, there's permits required, there's everything being professional, because we work with different nationalities altogether. We work with, Ugandans, South Sudanese, Eritreans, name it all. So at the end of the day, before someone leaves this country, are they leaving legally? Or they're just escaping to just go somewhere else and work. So that's another thing that we do. I mean, when you're Ugandan, the process is quite easier because you were born here, you have your passport, everything is easier. But then when you're a foreigner, do you have the right permits? Are you in school? So that is why most of our girls, they're in schools. When you see like 70% of our models, most of them are South Sudanese, but most of them are in school. They're here legally, they're studying, they have permits, and then it makes it easier when we are doing, their paperwork, their, bits to go work internationally. And then number three, collaborations. We collaborate a lot because it's not a one-man's army that, Joram, Swabra, Irene, we get these girls, train them, they're superstars, and then send them abroad. No, it doesn't work like that. It works in a way that we do have different agencies that we partner with internationally. So for someone to work in the biggest global fashion capitals of the world, like London, Paris, Milan, New York, it's very important that they do have representation in these cities. So we have different partners that we collaborate with in Paris, in Milan, in London, in New York, different agencies altogether. Because for you to work in all these cities, you need representation there. So before we say, oh wow, this girl is great, let's send her there, we're already collaborating with these people. And collaboration means are the contracts real. We follow everything to make sure that, even our legal team here reads these contracts. We have to trust these people. We do a lot of Zoom calls with them. We always, on emails 24/7. And the beauty about it is that we do a lot of background checks as well. For us to know that we're not just going to get this talent, send it abroad, and then probably they're trafficked or something like that. That is why you realize that we haven't had any issues with human trafficking at JMM or anything like that, because we ensure that the people that we're collaborating with are real, reputable agencies as well. And then another thing that we usually do is we have a lot of parental masterclasses as well. Because when you find talent, it's very important that they have parental consent. Very important, because there's no way you're going to get someone simply because, oh my God, they sing like Whitney Houston, they sing like Beyonce. Get them, take them abroad. It doesn't matter whether they're above 18 and they're legal. Whether they're 25, 26, chances are they have someone who's taking care of them. Chances are they live with someone or something like that. So parental masterclasses, so that the parents, the guardians, whoever takes care of these kids, they get to understand that this is a business. They have to know, where are their kids going? What are they going to be doing? What do they stand for? Things like that. So after the parental masterclasses, yes. And then we also collaborate a lot with different, we collaborate a lot with embassies as well. We have a very good relationship with both the Italian embassy, both the French embassy as well. So they've seen what we do, they've seen the works that we do, they trust what we do, and it makes it easier when it comes to integrating the local markets with the international markets. And then it's like a whole masterclass, but I'll try and be really, really, really fast. Then lastly, the power of social media and branding. It comes in very, very, very key. When you look at our social media, there's no scandals. Absolutely no scandals. And then the way we package our girls, the way we package ourselves, the way we do everything, it speaks for itself. So that even when embassies, when agencies, when all these people we collaborate with are doing background checks, absolutely, everything is very, very clean. And then also the policies in this country, we try as hard as we can to literally follow most of the policies in this country. We pay our taxes, we are in good books with everyone. We try to make sure that the business is running legally. So with all those factors into consideration, there's so many, right? It makes it easier to integrate local, talents with the international markets.
Wonderful. Yeah, honestly, this is amazing. So I was going to ask you about the collaboration part, but you've really explained it. Very insightful. There's nothing that doesn't come with challenges, right? So I need to know from you, what specific challenges have you observed in the migration process, especially for East African models, and how do you address them to ensure their well-being, the well-being of the models, in other words?
Okay, there's so many challenges, most especially with foreign models that live here. Because you realize that there's so many South Sudanese people that live here, right? And I've realized that some of them were either born here, some of them just, left their countries because of the war, they came here, and in most cases, you'll notice that 90% of them don't have permits. 90% of them have been living here freely because, we are a very accommodative country, so a lot of people live here, But then when it comes to now working on their paperwork, it's quite a process. So are they in school? If they're not in school, that means we have to take them back to school, Are they living here legally? We have to check whether they're living here legally as well. And then, so that's challenge number one, okay? And then another challenge, sometimes it's parental consent. You will notice that you will find amazing talent, but then the parents of these young girls, they'll tell you point blank, sorry, you can't take my daughter anywhere. If I share a very little story, there's one of the girls that we do have, she's called Ayak. She's based in New York right now. So very first time she was going to start her career 5 years ago, we thought we were talking to the parents, but instead we were talking to the big sister. So when it was time for her to leave the country, you have to get her at home, take her to the airport, and then we're at home and the parents are like, where are you taking my daughter? And the whole time we actually thought we were talking to the parents, you get it? And then the mother sat me down and she said, sorry, my daughter is not going anywhere. Mind you, We've already invested. The agencies have already, worked on their air tickets, on everything. And she had a campaign to shoot for Valentino. Huge campaign. So see, we have to cancel the campaign. We have to cancel everything. We have to, literally, and that damages your reputation at the end of the day, right? So, I kept speaking to the mom. And then the mother said, I would rather, my daughter is very tall, let me send her back to Juba, South Sudan, so she gets married and they give me 1,000 cows. And I was telling the mom, your daughter is going to change your life. So, such incidences, but thank God the daughter, the mom finally accepted, she allowed, and the daughter is making them so proud. She's taking care of the family, she's taking care of all of them, and their lives have changed. So sometimes it's parental consent, it's them not having permits here, and then also the language barrier is a big problem, a huge problem, whereby we've done scouting tours and then, you scout like an Eritrean girl, but then she can't speak English, she can't speak French, she can't speak any of the languages that they speak internationally, but then she has her own language that she speaks, meaning that even the development process is going to be really long, absolutely long. So language barriers, the parental consent, the permits here as well, and then also the negative mindset that a lot of people do have about modeling in this country. Because I remember very, very first time I was working on a permit of one of the girls, and then we were the immigration officers, and one of the officers, this is off record, one of the officers just asked me, is this prostitution or it's modeling? I'm sure you've heard about all these things, right? Whereby the minute you say, oh, she's a fashion model, he's a fashion model, the first thing that comes to everyone's mind is, oh, those are the prostitutes, those are the call girls, because of the mindset that people do have. But I'm so grateful that through platforms like these, where we are telling the world our stories, and even the world seeing what these girls are doing internationally, now they're believing in the business more. So there's so much. But then at the end of the day, how have we managed to curb all these problems? Masterclasses, professionalism, making sure that we stand for what we believe in, and making sure that we brand these girls a very certain type of way that is very aspirational, very inspirational. We stand by the truth. We make sure the contracts are, right. Wherever they're going, their parents are involved. We are actively involved. That's why they call us mother agents. So we've done our level best to show the world that mother agents can absolutely, put in the work and change people's dreams.
Yeah, amazing. So you've mentioned masterclasses. I'm very interested in knowing about the masterclasses and the mentorship and support programs that you have as Durham Model Management. Please share with us about that.
So we do a lot of masterclasses. Every year, we usually have like 3 tailored masterclasses. We do every quarter because we break down our year into quarters, and then we have 3 quarters. We do one in April, then we do one after 3 months, and then the last one like usually in December, something like that. So when we do these programs, they're not just basically tailored to people that want to be fashion models. No. They're tailored to everyone who wants to be better in life. Because the different things that we teach are not necessarily what people think modeling is all about. Because a lot of people just think modeling, pictures, runway, that's it. No, we have empowered different people in all different spheres of life. People that are positively living with HIV/AIDS, people that are differently abled, people that are in different spheres of life. That is why every time we're working, we try to be as diverse as possible. So that for us to just make sure that everyone has equal representation, equal rights, they have an equal stand, so that if anyone walks into a room, they can absolutely own it. So most of the things that we teach are centered around self-esteem, personality, building an image, how to conquer the world, social media, branding, name it all. The soft social skills that they never teach us in class. That's exactly what we teach. Because let's be realistic. When you go to school, 90% of the schools, they don't teach these things. They don't. They absolutely don't. That is why people study, they get PhDs, masters, name it all, but someone still walks into a room and they walk head down instead of walking shoulders out, chest out, walk straight, walk into a room, own it. So it's those little things that we teach that do make a huge difference.
Yeah, wonderful. So I need to take you back a little bit. As East Africa, we are diverse and so big on culture. Now, in your experience, what role do does cultural awareness and sensitivity play in facilitating the safe migration and integration of East African models and talent into the diverse world of international fashion? Yeah.
That's a very beautiful question. I would say when it comes to, the cultural awareness, that's a huge, huge debate right now at the moment. Because imagine a business where sometimes they're going to ask you to shoot a campaign when you're wearing a bikini, right? And then back here in the African culture, you wear a bikini, everyone is like, the girl is naked. She's absolutely naked. She can't do that. You get it? Or even the way people dress, even the way they do everything. I've had a chance to travel the world. I've been to New York, I've been to Paris. But even me sometimes, I would walk into a space and see certain things and I'm like, okay. Okay, yes. Like back at home, we don't do this, You walk into a room and the first thing is like, hi! Hello, darling, how are you? In Africa, you're going to be like, hi, how are you? So the cultural differences themselves, for the girls to also know that you have to act a certain type of way. Your personality has to be big. You have to walk into a room and own it. You have to do things differently. But then back here at home, it's totally different. Everything here is totally different. So that has affected a lot of African countries when it comes to even, safe migration a lot. Because you realize that a girl could be at the airport, right? She has her visas, she has her paperwork right, and then when she's, she passes Entebbe very well. She reaches at the border, Paris, and then they'll ask her, what have you come to do? And she'll say, I am here to be a fashion model. And they'll say, can you go aside? You get it? Simply because it's the culture, it's the way we speak, it's the way we do everything, it's the way we've been trained, so that, it's a huge debate at the moment. But I like the fact that now different cultures are trying to, embrace different cultures altogether. That is why even when the girls leave this country and then they go to work in these global fashion capitals of the world, they understand that, the cultures are different. We don't teach them to change who they are, but then to also be more embracing, more embracing at the end of the day. So that brings me back to also more master classes, more sensitization programs for people to understand that our cultures are totally different, absolutely different.
All right. So as Jura Model Management, you are legit, and we've seen all the work that you've done to, help the East African fashion models and contribute to the growth of the market over here. But then there are cases of, I've actually interacted with a few models that live here. I don't know if they use agents or people that are not legit, and then they go abroad and they're exploited, and somebody tells you they took me as a fashion model and then they took me into a lot of other dubious things. I need to hear from you. How do you address issues related to exploitation or unfair treatment that East African models might encounter in foreign markets? And what measures are in place to safeguard their rights? Yeah.
Okay, it's very, very important to anyone who's listening to this that you want to be a fashion model that works internationally, get a legit mother agent. So mother agents, these are agents that literally take care of models right from the time they scouted them. Because when you get scouted, right, any random person can scout an amazing girl. I could walk down the street, find an amazing girl, and I'm like, oh my God, she's amazing. Pitch her internationally, they like her, and then I send her. But I don't know exactly who I'm sending this girl to. So rule number one, it's very important to have mother agents that are legit, that are passionate, that understand the business. Because, there's so many mother agents out there, but are they passionate? Do they understand the business? Sorry. Do they understand the business? Are they, standing up for the girls? So, legit mother agents. Then number 2, research, research, research. Don't get into anything simply because it's very, it looks very lucrative, right? Someone comes to you and they tell you, oh my God, we're gonna book you for a campaign for, let me say Prada, and it's 50,000 euros. Trust me, any random person is gonna be like, oh my God, I'm gonna, do a campaign for, but you don't even know. Are they legit? Do you know who the casting directors are? Do you know? Social media is there. Social media doesn't lie. Sometimes it lies, but then at the end of the day, you'll get to see honest people and then people that are not honest as well. And then, I've talked about research, I've talked about mother agents, and then I've also talked about it's very important for people to join platforms like this. Young people out there, go for empowerment platforms. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people think they know it all until you go to a platform where you learn so much about migration, learn so much about empowerment, learn so much about contracts, learn so much about, all these different things all together. So it's empowering the mindset. It is, mother agents, research. And then at the end of the day, it's also you knowing exactly what you want in life. Not everything that glitters is gold. Let's be realistic. Not everything that glitters is gold. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I hope someone is burning with a question because I'm going to be taking 2 questions right now from the audience, from y'all. Okay. We have a hand. Yes.
So the catch box, I'm literally gonna throw this, and you better catch. If you don't catch, yes.
Okay. All right.
So I'm Ishmael Arenitwe, and I am a Twitter influencer, a radio show host, a YouTube show host, and a content creator in general. I've never paid attention like I paid attention today. Why? Because I think I'm tall enough to be a model, right? Yeah. So one I love about the Joram model management, and I've been noting, is that they front the safety of their models. Yeah, that's very key. Like the contracts up there, everything is up there. They make sure the model is safe in and outside the country. Now, my question is around cultural rigidity. Joram, you shared the story of when you moved to the parents' home and everything was ready, the tickets, the visas, and the mom is like, no, my daughter better go and get married and I get the cows. So, and then the point of someone meets someone in a mini skirt and I don't know, and they are like, no, this dress code is for prostitutes. So how are you handling that? Is there like sensitization on social media? Have you tried hiring some social media influencers to push your agenda and change the mindset? How are you handling the issue of cultural rigidity? Yeah. Thank you so much.
All right. Let's respond to that, Joram. Let's first respond to that.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Influencer. That's a very beautiful question. So, at the end of the day, like I said, a lot of masterclasses. And the beauty about our masterclasses is that we tailor them to fit different narratives of human beings. That is why we have model masterclasses, we have pageant masterclasses, and then we also have the parental masterclasses. So before we sign a girl, we don't just see a girl and we say, amazing, amazing, sign her. No, we will say, the first thing that we ask for is, can we meet your parents? Can we meet your parents? Whether you're lying, we will try our level best to make sure that we find who your parents are. So when we meet these parents, we sit them down and let them understand how the business works. Just like how everyone goes to school and they understand, you're going to do law, this is what you're going to do. You're going to study medicine, this is what medicine does. You're going to do, so we do all that. We do a lot of like sensitization programs through these masterclasses with, the parents all together. And this It has really, really helped. I would say 90% of the parents are now embracing modeling as well. And also when it comes to the dress code, trust me, when designers make these clothes, some of these clothes are just for the show. Let's be realistic. These clothes are worn in different spaces altogether. Some do them for film, some do them for entertainment, some do them for... So when a model signs up with us, we teach them so much about dress codes as well. There's no way you're going to meet a girl that we represent nude or naked or halfway dressed walking down the street. They will kill the girl. You get it? Like, culture here is totally different. In New York, a girl will wear her hot pants, her bikini bra, and walk comfortably. You can't do that here in Uganda. You absolutely can't. So we teach them how different cultures are totally different. Absolutely different. I hope that answers your question. And then when it comes to us wanting a social media influencer, we will talk about it. I love social media so much, but we'll have a chat.
All right. Thank you so much, Joram. Do we have any other burning? We're taking only one.
No. So this is what's going to happen, right?
Okay.
Let's write these questions down, right? We have to transition to another panel right about now. But we're still talking about media and migration the whole day. So I'm very sure we'll have a session to cover these questions, if that's fine with you.
All right. Thank you so much, Joram. It's been an honor to have you here at the MCI Media Hub. I hope this has been insightful. So if you want to be a model like the models you've seen on the international runways, you know who to talk to, right? Okay, let's give a big round of applause to Joram and his team all together.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
A huge round of applause for our first panel, Big Boy Shaq and Joram Muzira. A powerful discussion that just set the tone. We're talking media and safe migration, and who knew that the runway has some migration stories to inspire. It has been an amazing, amazing morning. I hope you're excited. DJ, do you want us up for like 5 minutes? No, we're good? Oh, okay. So like I said, this will require that we have some energy in the room, but also really keep those questions at the back of your mind. We will be sharing these coming up. Our next panel will be moderated by a man I am humbled to introduce. He is a dedicated policy enthusiast in the areas of access to information for refugees in Uganda. He recently authored a policy paper under the Youth for Policy in Migration Fellowship by the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, where he explored policy alternatives for access to information for refugees in the rural settlements and urban areas. He holds a bachelor's degree in journalism and mass communication from Uganda Matters University in Kozi. To moderate our next panel session is none other than Mr. Samuel Muhindo.
Thank you very much, Tracy. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I should have greeted you in German, but my German is a bit limited. Today's conversation is quite interesting. We're going to look at moving stories. Richard, happy to see you. And our panelists today will be, allow me to say this, on the panel will be 3 people who have been different occasions and generations worked at the Observer. Me, the latest person, Richard Kavma, who now is a public information officer and interim program manager, immigration and governance, board and governance. He is at the IOM. Richard, you're welcome. Please join us. We also have Dismas Nkunda. There is no better person to look at these stories of moving stories than Dismas. He was at the center of telling stories, and now I'm blowing your cover, telling stories of the 1990-1994 Rwanda war, and he actually helped redefine what was happening in the Rwanda. Dismas, please join us. And of course, since it is CAS, surely we'll produced experts. Our first expert is Frank Nwagaba. He's a researcher and an academician aspiring to do his PhD again in migration. He's an alumnus of the Youth for Policy and Migration. Frank joined us, and he also works with the Directorate for Citizenship and Immigration Control. And another expert, a product of CAS, Youth for Policy and Migration, is Patricia Namakula. She's the Director of Research, Communications, and Public Relations at the Center for Multilateral Affairs. And again, another CAS expert. Surely Anna should have been considered. Is Lucy Nantume. She's a lawyer, a human rights practitioner with 14 years of professional experience, and she's currently the program manager at the Conrad Adenauer Stiftung, Uganda and South Sudan, where she steers the special initiative on migration and forced displacement. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Lucy. Allow me to use this. Ladies and gentlemen, I request that we greet our audience and then we can get started. We'll start with you, Desmas.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I think I'm the eldest in this room, so don't get scared. My name is Dismas Nkula. I am the founder and chief executive officer of Atrocities Watch Africa, a former journalist. Kavma, Muhindo, those are colleagues. I used to be with the Observer as a columnist. I worked for the Monitor newspaper, covered the 1994 genocide, and I'm now a walking catalogue of confusion. Thank you.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Once again, my name is Patricia Namakula, and I work with the Center for Multilateral Affairs as the Director of Research and PR. Very happy to be on this panel.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Frank Nwagaba. I am a public policy scholar. I have done a lot of migration research, and I'm currently employed by government at the Directorate of Citizenship and Immigration Control. So my thoughts will be from that background, not that I'm the PR for the ministry though. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Very big pleasure to be here. I am very passionate about young journalists because I wrote my first news story when I was in senior 5. I was that ambitious, so since then I always consider it part of my responsibility to encourage young journalists. So I now work with the International Organization for Migration as the Public Information Officer. Pleasure to be here.
I'll request that we get closer to the microphones when we are speaking so that we can get a good sound output. Yes, Lucy?
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. It's a beautiful morning. Welcome. My name is Lucy Peace Nantume. I'm a lawyer by profession. I'm working with the Conrad Adenauer Stiftung. I'm managing the program on migration and forced displacement. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. And to start, we shall get going. Most of us who have sat on this side today, at any one time have moved from a point to another, either because of economic reasons and other conflict-related reasons. To start with, I'll start with Lucy. What is safe migration to you, in your understanding, and why is it important?
Okay. Safe migration, in simple terms, is as you hear the word, safe. people to be, the ability for people to move from one place to the other, to do it legally, that they can move, they are not trafficked, they are not using illegal routes, they are going in the right way. Yeah, briefly, that's it. That's what I would define it to be.
I would like to move the same question to Frank. What is legal and what is illegal? Because from your end, you may give us a better perspective of illegalities and legalities in migration.
Thank you, Sam. When we talk migration, you can, instead of saying illegal and illegal, let's look at regular and irregular migration. Now that gives you perspective of, whereas you might come in on a visa, you're legal as per the definition of the standard. You're given 3 months. What are you doing when you're here for 3 months? If you got a tourist visa, what are you doing with the 3 months you're here? Because that can be legal as per your passport standing, but you're an irregular migration, an irregular migrant because of what you engage into while you're here. So that's the perspective we look at. So we would like most of the, in our line of work, what we usually refer to is regular, that you've taken the right measures and you've maintained conditions of what allowed you into a country. Irregular, on the other end, is you try to bypass the right path, or while you came in on the right document, then or right visa or right clearances, while you're here, then you can turn into an irregular. So it doesn't really matter. You might have crossed as a regular and then you become irregular while you're in the other country. So there are those aspects. But so the safety aspect is the safety nets around movement at every step of the movement. As you prepare to move, when you move, while you stay in your destination country. So we look at the safety along the path of the migrant. When you start to move, when you're moving, when you're staying, and even when you decide to return. So the safety cuts across. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to stick with you.
Yeah.
I'm sure you should have seen a video that was making rounds of a Ugandan who could not leave Kenya because he was holding a Ugandan passport, headed to whatever destination. In what situations can someone holding a Ugandan passport not travel?
Thank you, Sam. Now, when you say a Ugandan passport and you cannot travel, he had traveled.
Yes.
He was in another country.
Mm-hmm.
He had gotten access into the other country. Now, that's where we talk about when he traveled as what? Was he in transit to another destination?
Okay.
Was he visiting? Did he have a visiting visa? That means he's subject to return because he has a return ticket back to his initial country where he departed from. So there are many aspects you have to look at. Media, that's where you come in as the media. Tell the whole story. Don't give the half story. Because for him, he's going to make a video and he's not going to give you the details. In the wake of irregular migration and most of the aspects that relate to trafficking in persons and migrant smuggling, some of the measures have been put by countries because they are facing the same. We had the same situation where Ugandans leave Uganda and they are being trafficked through Kenya at some point. Then how do you address that? Then it comes down to, if you're leaving, then we should know whether you're transiting through Nairobi to another country or you're going to return to your home country and leave for another destination.
Thank you, Frank. I want to move to Richard.
Yes.
Because one, with his background in the media and his current position somewhere, I'm sure he has an idea or two about this. He's advising that media plays a role. On your end, how have you engaged the media to facilitate one, information flow about safe migration, and then maybe informing your people that would wish to travel? Have there been engagements between you on one side as IOM and then the media on the other end?
Thank you, Sam. I think specifically on that question, most of the people that we have engaged with have been to cover specific events or specific engagements, and part of it has to do with the way the organization is structured.
I would request that you get closer to the microphone so that we could...
Sorry?
Yeah.
Sorry. So I was saying part of that has to do with the way my organization is structured. Some of the work that we do around migration is not so much in the public eye because, you know, for instance, we have a program on resettling refugees to third countries. These are normally vulnerable refugees, and they come here from, say, the Democratic Republic of the Congo or from South Sudan, and some other countries are willing to give them a safer environment where they will be, their rights will be respected and they'll be safe. So some of the things that go on, we haven't engaged the media, but I remember a couple of months back we had a training in Nairobi on how to report migration issues, and we had colleagues from NBS and Vision Group who attended that training. So from that perspective, we've tried to provide training opportunities for journalists, but also sometimes when you have access, because sometimes colleagues in the media are working on a story and they need to explore a certain issue. So we've supported, again, some media colleagues from Vision Group to have interviews with my chief of mission and also previously NTV. So that is how we try to engage. One, to get them access to the people who can give them informed perspectives.
To stick with you, Richard, how should media toe the line? One, we have to report about migration issues and urban migration, people moving and settling in urban areas. How do we toe the line of reporting on these cases and then again making sure that we do not become xenophobic in reporting our stories? Because at the end of the day, you may incite the population against these people that are now coming to stay with us.
Well, I think fortunately being in Uganda, Uganda is famous across the world for being a very hospitable country, and for many people, I'm sure for the 1.5 million refugees who are here, Uganda feels like a home out of home, and then you have many other migrants from other countries, Somalia, Eritrea, and other countries. People have found home and hospitality here. So when it comes, and for the most part, I can say as a former journalist that I think for the most part the media has done well, and I think you see the media is a reflection of the society within which it operates. So, and for the most part, I think the media have done well. We haven't seen those kinds of xenophobic attacks, at least not fronted by mainstream media. Of course, once you go to social media, everyone is a journalist in their own right, and again, you have the multiplicity of perspectives, as many as you have Ugandans. So by and large, I think the media has been responsible, and I mean, the basic things, fortunately for the mainstream media, you still have a good gatekeeping tradition on the editing desks. I think that is checked. But for us as journalists, the idea is to question our thinking, to question our perspectives. Like Frank was saying, to not tell just part of the story, but to try and tell the full story. And that takes us back to critical thinking, which is a very important facet for a journalist's career, that before I conclude that this man killed that woman, there are so many possibilities. Someone else could have killed her. This person might not have been the one. So before I decisively say that this man is guilty and brand them as such in my reporting, you want to reserve judgment. until you have all the possible sides to the
Richard,
story.
allow me to cut you short there. I would then like to cross to Dismas for one reason. Dismas is a PhD student in genocide studies. If we have paid close attention to Rwanda and the events that precede the genocide, media played a role. And again, to tell Dismas' story, he knows I know part of his story. To tell his story, I think shortly after graduating from university, he's assigned to go to Rwanda to cover his story by his editor at the time. Dismas, you're just a fresh graduate from university, and you're telling stories, one, about conflict, two, about the movement of people into this country. If you reflect today about the stories that you told, do you wish you should have told them better, most especially on the migration side? Because then these stories eventually became the foundation for reference about the Rwanda that we know today.
Are you reading my dissertation? Or, so in 1994, I was young, fresh, very energetic, not now that I'm lethargic, and I went to report. Now, reporting the 1994 genocide wasn't a very easy piece of a cake. There were deaths, there were many deaths, there were many people leaving the country, people who were injured, people whose necks were cut. Now, you as a journalist, what took me there was to be able to narrate, to give a narration of exactly what was going on. It was so interesting at that time that Muhindo and Richard will understand when I tell you about the newspaper vendors. They used to come to Monitor newspaper. I was the first reporter that Monitor recruited in 1992 when the paper started from Makerere University, because Charles Onyango Bo was then my lecturer, so he knew who to recruit, me and Onapito Ekomloid. And so when I reached there, that when I was reporting on 1994 genocide in Rwanda, vendors, newspaper vendors would come to Monitor and ask, is Dismas having a story tomorrow? If he has a story tomorrow about Rwanda, I want to increase my papers by 50%. So reporting about genocide was one of the most difficult things that I had to encounter as a human being. You are counting dead bodies. I remember stories of how we found a girl whose mother had died about a week earlier. The baby was 6 months old, but the mother had died, but the baby was still suckling the dead mother, and she was suckling pus. And the flies had eaten the entire mouth of the kid who was suckling the mother who was dead. The kid didn't know the mother was dead. I remember the girl we picked from a church in Nyarubuye. The girl had been lying in dead bodies for 2 weeks, and she had been eating human flesh. The girl is alive. She's now in Kigali. She's a mother. We picked her out. She was smelling. One of the things that human beings, we don't know who are alive, is how a dead body smells. A dead body smells very badly. But this girl was living in these dead bodies for that time, and she was eating human flesh. We picked her, washed her using mineral water, and she's a mother. She has a kid, and she's alive in Kigali. So to your point, there were events that, there are certain things which actually let me leave the profession of journalism, because counting numbers and saying 600 are dead, 500 are dead, one I removed from the dead, it did not change, it did not make me feel comfortable. I felt that I needed to do something. If you went to Rusumo River, where we found about 1,000 machetes that had been abandoned by the genocides that were fleeing into Tanzania, but they were accorded a reception into Tanzania. That is the beautifulness about refugees, being a refugee, or the forced migration, and the manner in which we portray it in our media. Now, one of the things that, Muhindo, if I'm speaking too much, you just shut me up.
I will,
I'm very comfortable.
Yes.
So one of the things that I'm studying currently for my PhD is the role of the role of the, what do you call it? The role of hate speech. One of the things that happens in these kind of conflicts that lead to refugee populations is hate speech. Hate speech becomes the basis upon which a person's mind is changed. So what I'm trying to look at is that what goes on in the mind of the person who is agitating or bringing about hate speech that causes such a movements of people. Now, in most cases, if you study hate speech, they begin by making you look as you are inanimate. In other words, you are either an animal. In Rwanda, they call you a cockroach, right? So if I ask you when you see a cockroach, what is your most important instinct? Kill it. So they call them.
Thank you very much, Dismas. When we see a cockroach,
what becomes your immediate instinct when you see a cockroach?
Is
to exterminate it.
No.
Okay, that's the first thing. The second one is that in Ethiopia recently, and it's one of my other case studies. Ethiopia, the prime minister calling the Tigrayans weeds. What if you have a weed? What do? You uproot it.
You uproot it.
Right? So what happens is that in genocide, in that kind of mentality, you, the person whom they are going to kill, they make you so inanimate within yourself. You feel that you are actually useless. That by the time the person is coming to kill you, they are doing you a favor. That in other words, you may even praise the person for killing you by exterminating you because they have made you look and seem useless. So, Muhindo, I can go on and on, but
yes.
I know that this is a conversation.
Yes,
so
allow me cross to Patricia. One, Patricia has not actively participated in the media. She's on the research side, and she just observes how the media tells the stories. One, are you happy with how we journalists tell the stories? You can actually tell it to this massive face on your left.
Well, I can say yes and no, because from my judgment, I think that media is more reactive and non-proactive, and then we can say that you don't have the resources, to investigate the issues or even do a better job in, creating awareness, Usually when you report an incident, let me say in the Middle East, there is a girl who is stuck there, or parents are fighting to bring the body of their daughter back. She has been murdered in the Middle East. When you start reporting and it catches, that story is making headlines, in every news house, in every bulletin, you find that she's already dead, So nothing was done to prevent the incident from happening. So I think that media can do a better job in being proactive,
Okay.
But again, that comes with capacity building, It might be that migration stories don't, they're not of high interest to the public itself or even to the editors. That when you bring a migration story, it might likely not make it to the to the news. But how do we make them more interested, or how do we build the capacity of journalists actually to be interested in covering these stories?
Thank you very much. I want to cross to Lucy because she's on the policy side. She's raised a point on capacity. And most people, especially Dismas and Richard, should have left the newsroom because of viability and concerns. There is a news article, I could call it a column, by Daniel Kalinaki. May the last journalist not switch off the lights. It is the biggest respect to Richard when he was leaving the newsroom. I'm coming to you. Do you think I've switched off those lights, by leaving the newsroom? But how, if there are these concerns of viability, Dismas, for the same reason, at some point, stopped publishing with us his opinions. Later on, you also found that maybe you should not be there. And now here you are in communications and want journalists to tell the migration stories better. How should the media be supported to look at migration as a very important aspect that at some point should also reach our front page stories? Not for the case of maybe of labor externalization, but for the deep-rooted issues that we have today. I can give an aspect. What happens to Dismas Nkunda today when he goes back to Frank to renew his passport? And he is told, for example, that the Nkundas come from Rwanda. How then do we merge these concerns? How should media then look at our story? Look at the stories to give to these people that migration is important as a topic. Yes, that's for you, Richard.
Well, thank you very much, Sam. Now, I think from the perspective of journalists, this story is, the story shouldn't be bigger than the people in it. And I think one way we can make the stories compelling and interesting is to focus on the human experience and the impact, whatever it is that we are trying to report, the impact that that has on the lived experience of the human being. So I might not care about genocide per se, but when Dismas talks about finding a baby of 6 months, suckling a dead mother, if that doesn't appeal to your sense of outrage, then something is quite wrong with you. So one way that we can, well, help to promote these stories about migration is to focus on the lived experience, to focus on how is it, the fact that I'm covering, how does it impact on the people? And then try to tell the stories through the eyes and lenses of the very human beings at the center of this, of the story that we are trying to cover.
Thank you very much. I'll cross over to Lucy. We're in a country recently, and someone told us that you bring us the money, and we shall tell your stories. Lucy, we would wish to tell these stories as journalists, but again, on your end, you feel media should be independent. How, without influencing editorial policies, would you wish migration stories to be told?
I'm not a journalist, for your information, so I speak from that angle. First, when Namakula was speaking, it also got my attention. Me, as an outsider, out of the profession of journalists, what I would want when I look, do I see that journalists are covering migration stories well? Yes and no, as she also said. For example, I find that, let me use labor migration. You know, like migration has many facets. We have the labor migration, we have the refugees, we have the people who migrate for various reasons, internal migration, people who are displaced, etc. I find that reporting usually focuses on the negatives that are happening. Yes, for example, refugees are so many and they are coming and they are bad things and what, but in there are positive stories. Labor migration, for example, all media usually focuses on the girls who are going to the Middle East and the human rights violations therein. But we have positive stories. Joram has just given us a positive story.
Thank you very much for that.
Why don't we cover and bring out
Lucy,
also
to just pause you a little bit, that story was told by an in-house newsroom, Solutions Now Africa, by the Media Challenge Initiative.
I'm using it
I
as
think we should recognize that.
an example, you know.
Yeah.
So we don't see a lot of that coming out the way we see the negatives. So I appeal to you journalists, please cover the positives that are happening, how people are migrating and getting good jobs and utilizing that money to develop the society. Bring out those positives, because migration is not going to end. Migration is here to stay. People have migrated from forever, and it's going to go on.
Thank you. I would wish to stick to you before I cross to Frank. The concern in the newsroom will be we do not have money to tell these stories. For example, if you're going to tell the story of Amito, if you wanted to tell a feature story, you'd wish to go to Juba, to Sudan, South Sudan, sorry, to know the roots and then tell the story.
Yeah.
Should does your end on the policy side, do you have the money? Because Dismas was funded by his newsroom to go and tell the stories in Rwanda for almost 6 or 7 months, and he was based there. If our newsrooms today are coming to you and they're telling you, we do not have the money to tell these stories, how then, again, do we put a spotlight on the good deeds of Joram and many people like him?
I appreciate the importance of money in this, in telling the stories, but I believe we are living in a better world. Social media, all of us have even become journalists. You can tell a story free of charge by using your smartphone. You can capture and tell stories using media at lesser costs. But of course, also there are others who support journalists, even CAS. Today here we are supporting journalists.
Please clap for CAS.
To tell the stories. And I know very many other institutions which help in that regard. And other resources which have been developed to help journalists. For example, I came across Ethical Journalism Network, which has an online resource for journalists reporting on migration. So you can use that, you find other contacts, and you reach out to them. Sometimes you've seen people publishing stories at no cost, and maybe someone picks interest in that, reach out to them, and they fund them to do more things.
Thank you very much, Lucy. I'm crossing to Frank for one reason. When Joram was making a presentation here, he said something important. At migration, you want your passport to be stamped. Someone asks a celebrated model whether they are prostitutes. Is there appreciation of fashion, design, and modeling by the immigration officers at your end? You're not speaking for the for internal affairs, I know, but is there that appreciation that at the end of the day, people like Joram are contributing to the GDP of this country, and we should appreciate their role and the models that they bring to us?
All right, thank you, Sam. Is there appreciation of fashion? My question, I would want to ask you the same question, or ask the audience. Is there appreciation in migrants and migration in general? My question comes from, how do Ugandans refer to people who work in the US and Canada and the UK? In the Waluganda version, Nkuba Cheyo. It translates into sweepers. How do we refer to the people in the Middle East?
Bakadama.
Bakadama. Where do these names come from? Because what we don't appreciate, which is in our communities, is people are moving for different reasons. I have moved out of this country for a different reason. I have family members out of this country for different reasons. He has moved for different reasons. The appreciation of migration, not as a norm for now, but people will move regardless. For whatever reason, bad or good, people are going to move. So we haven't appreciated that as the community. So don't target to a specific office or officer. It comes down to all of us, because you produce the people who go to those offices.
All right, thank you very much.
So the discussion, let me finish with this.
Okay.
If we could appreciate that the moment we carry stereotypes, they're not going to cease to be stereotypes in our communities. They're going to be also carried to the people who live our communities. That narration of the fashionista getting a visa or exiting, that same can be said in his family or his friends. So unless we change the narrative, then which the media is supposed to do.
Unless we change the narrative.
Yes.
I insist again to cross to Dismas. As we open the floor for questions, how do we debunk stereotypes? How do we debunk these stereotypes? Bakadama, Vancouver Cheyo. Again, I'm sure you should have interacted with certain not good comments when the Rwandese refugees were moving into Uganda. How should we have debunked these stereotypes as the media? Because again, these, as he explains, the migration officials are products of the society. So they're the monsters that we have made.
It's good Frank is here. And I have always wanted to be able to ask something that is very touching.
Yes.
I come from Ksoro. I'm in Fumbira.
Thank you.
And if in immigration, Frank would tell me yes or no, they have a particular office that looks at people who look like Rwandese. And these people, some of them, the checks are about what is the size of their behind or their faces. And it has happened to my sister-in-law. It was one of the most embarrassing things that I've ever encountered. And yet one of my sons, I'm sure Frank, you know him, he's called Mark Kaihura. He's my son, my nephew works there. And they said, but Mark, this is your auntie. Why are they subjecting her to this kind of, mistreatment simply because you don't conform to the picture of what a Ugandan is supposed to look like? To me, that same reflection is a reflection of what the media picks, uses, because the media depends much on what the public perception is about.
Thank you very much. We're opening the floor for questions. So if you have questions, please, we shall take them. But Frank must answer, and then Richard should help him in answering this question.
Thank you
if
very
you have
much.
questions, we shall take them, please.
Thank you very much, Sam. If we stood up here before they say our names, you can equally, in your instincts, try to put that Frank is an African. Yes?
And after being an African?
Because of color. Because of color.
Yes.
From his accent or the way he speaks the English language, you can also put him in a different grouping.
Right.
Now, this is where the media, to me, I feel this is where your role comes in. There is a schedule in the Constitution that describes who is a Ugandan. The Constitution equally provides for the different types of citizenships. All right? So, when you present yourself to an officer and he says, according to this and this and this, I don't think you belong in the different tribes described in the schedule in the Constitution. The onus is on you to prove. All right? The description of shapes, that's not according to the standards set for us to identify and to verify citizenship.
But that's happened.
Citizenship verification is based more than just on how a person appears and how he speaks. Now, all that, where the media, you say, a person records a video, I've been denied a passport because I speak like this or I look like this, then you give a chance for the public relations officers. We have one on the table on what is the description, what's the story. And they give you the procedure on how citizenship verification is done. Then, because you won't deny the fact that we are dealing with people coming in from other countries and claiming to be Ugandans and wanting Ugandan passports.
Frank, allow me to cut you short.
Thank you.
As Richard answers this question, I also want to put to him something amazing. How do we tell stories of the several people that we find sheltered in tents outside your offices? Because we would wish to tell those stories, but again, we don't want to take away the human dignity of these people. So as you answer that, how do we tell those stories? What are those? Who are they? Why are they even outside the gates of such an important office? Is it that you can't be of help? Ladies and gentlemen, I'll be taking questions if there is any.
Yeah.
I'll take one. So as Richard responds,
thank you.
You can stand.
Thank you, Sam. Now, I wanted to add to what Frank and Dismas said regarding the citizenship verification and all that. And I think that is where the media also comes in, because when such a thing happens, because we need to separate individual transgressions from institutional issues. So sometimes, you say, when we call people Nkubacheyo, we are the same people who go and work in these offices. So when I have a certain stereotypical view of who a Ugandan is, when I'm in an office, it's going to take a very, very big strength of character for me to transcend my own perspective. So sometimes there's a spillover. But that's where the media comes in. So the way we frame the issues, because on the one hand, the media reflects the society
please get
from
closer
which it
to the
comes.
microphone.
Yeah. On the one hand, the media reflects its society, but on the other hand, the media has a responsibility to frame issues, to ask questions, and that way, so there's a way in which the media can lead society, because we are also we inform, we educate, as much as we entertain and reflect our society. Regarding the people who are, who you find outside IOM, yes, you would like to tell their stories, and it's difficult, even for me who works with IOM, because there's a lot of considerations that we have to make. Many of these people are here not because Uganda is very hospitable, but because, because however good a country may be, home is always home. So many of them leave their countries for security reasons. They don't feel safe there. And if we are going to tell their stories, we might endanger those who are after them. We might inform those who are after them that, oh, this is where this man is, this is what he's doing. So it's because of that that their stories tend to be quite restricted. Because whatever we do, the idea is you don't want to do any harm in the interest of telling the story. So the do no harm principle always means we exercise a lot of restraint.
Thank you, Richard. Allow me to take a question from the audience. If there is any, again, so we shall take two questions, one from me and one from the other side. Closer to the microphone.
I'm a 2023 Media Challenge Fellow. My question is in regards to safe migration and minority groups.
To whom are you?
To the lady.
Lucy.
Yes, so what is the policy in regards to safe migration and minority groups, especially in Uganda with, for example, if you example, sexual and gender minorities. We have like a law against that, the anti-homosexuality bill. So what does policy say about protecting these people and making sure that migration is safe for them if they're running from something else and coming here? Now they're a minority this side, like they're against the law.
All right, thank you very much. We had a question the other side, and another question, an extra question here, so that we closer to the microphone, please.
Thanks a lot. Reality is my name. I'm a multimedia storyteller, but also a social justice activist. As a Congolese refugee, I'm the team leader of streaming Asylum, which is an online media which help refugees, migrants, exiles, and other asylum seekers who tell their stories in their own voices, but also in their authentic words. So,
Your question, please. We are time bad.
My question is for all the panelists. What I want to know is that, sorry for a moment.
Oh, can we have another person as he prepares himself? Okay.
My question has two parts. The first one is addressed.
Can we have what? Excuse me. Can we have one question, please? Because your colleagues also should have to ask a question. One.
Without questioning the expertise of our panelists, I would like to know if they believe that they are the best fit to tell the stories on migration, or if they are just the self-proclaimed voice of the voiceless who try to work in order to suffocate the true stories on migration and refugees. And my second question.
No, thank you very much. Allow me assign the question to Richard. Let us take a question from another person here. Please, you can stand. Let us be brief and concise.
Yes, thank you. Alan from Central West University.
Alan, who?
Okay, so Alan from Central West University. My query is about, for instance, when someone crosses from another country to Uganda mostly, and they maybe lied on their visa, it's maybe would be a visa, and you find them doing something else in Uganda. Are there some law enforcers that are supposed to look for them, or wait for them until
Let us start with Frank. Let him give you a very precise answer. No, that's fine. Let him answer. Yes, thank you very much. No, he's done. The question is Frank.
Thank you very much, Sam. I'll respond to Alan from St. Rhodes. The Ministry of Internal Affairs, under the Directorate of Citizenship and Immigration Control, there is a department for inspection and legal services. I happen to be in that department. And what we do is look out for people. We ensure compliance, that if you're here, you're doing what you say you're supposed to do. And yes, we look out for those that are breaking the law, and we do the process of prosecution, removals, and the extreme measures, deportation.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And there's deportation sometimes. Let us have Richard respond to the question.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I think his question was, I didn't quite understand it, but at some point he was wondering if the panelists are the best fit to tell the story. I don't think there is any claim to that effect. I think each of us, you and me, whatever we do, we are not necessarily the best. Probably the only one who is the best at everything is God. I think it's like, you know, having the world of journalism is a world of media people, and each of us brings something to whatever story we are telling. If you're writing a story about the village wrestler in your village, probably you can't, and someone who is in Greece can't tell that story better than you, who grew up seeing this person. So I may not tell the story about where my brother comes from better than him, but I think together, when we all come together, we can probably contribute to whatever story we are telling. And there was something about suffocating the story. I'm sorry, but it wasn't very clear, because I don't know if any of us is in the business of suffocating stories.
And you have never been. Let us have Lucy.
Safe migration and sexual minority groups. Migration is a right. Everyone has a right to move. Frank will correct me on whether in the applications people are asked about their sexual orientation. No, they are not. I know people are free to move across the borders regardless of their sexual orientation, unless your question was on how safe people are when they move. And that applies to all groups, not even just the sexual minorities. But basically, you're not asked your orientation when you want to move. You can just move. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of this important conversation. To the young journalists, I hope this kickstarts your aspiration to tell our migration stories better. Thank you very much, and thanks for being. And to our panelists, we are really proud of you. Thank you very much, Dismas, Patricia, Frank. Allow me to call Richard, Rimkav, and Lucy.
One thing only. 18th December is the International Migrants Day. Please note it and follow the conversations that happen around migration. 18th December. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let us give our panelists a round of applause. Thank you very much.
Yes, a huge round of applause for our moderator and the panelists. And to...
Excuse me, you have not taken a group photo, our panelists. Please, a group photo for you.
A group photo for the panelists. Interesting.
Richard, a group photo for the panelists.
We will have a panelist do a group photo. In the meantime, just room check. How are we feeling? Are we about to tell better stories about migration? Let me just check in the room. Are we about to tell better stories about migration? Has your perception changed? Yes? Most of us, I think the word migration just stirs up some different reaction. But just checking in with the gentleman right here. Sir, if you could stand, please. Just checking up on you. Do you feel that you understand migration better?
I can try.
It's the honesty in the room, yes? I just want to find out, yes, if people around here understand migration and what the media can do to change the perceptions about Africa and migration. I mean, how many of us have read stories about migration, including the word Africa, and it's positive? Just, I mean, give me, a story you've read about Africa, and in the same sentence there's a word migration, but it's a positive story. Like, no people have drowned, no shores, Let me find out. We have MISD Press in the room. Sir, you have perhaps written stories, read stories. Let me find out from you what your perception is, especially after that panel discussion.
Actually, my first perception on this, because I had a story where Ugandans could travel in Kenya and were arrested due to some documents which they never had. But according to the panelists here, they say that the situation is now sorted out.
Oh, the situation has been sorted out. The other thing that you need to know is that we are moving to a borderless Africa. Yes? How many of us know like 3 countries that have crossed the word visa for as long as you're an African? You know? You know that that's happening? Also, how many of us know that you and I could just as well be migrants tomorrow? You don't think? You don't think? Now that's why you need to entrust yourself with what's happening around migration, but also how effectively, as African media personalities, media professionals, why we need to tell better stories and represent ourselves the way we want to be represented. The best person to tell the story, someone said something about the lion and the hunter. Who knows that saying? So everyone thought, who was the hero? Until it told its own story, right? Yes, so that is happening. Any one of us can as well be a migrant. We have sisters, we have friends, we have families that have, in one way or the other been affected, are affected, have survived, and have made better lives out for themselves in far lands. But also, I was born in a different district. Hi, Sam. So the moderator comes from Kasese. He's a fast face of migration in this room. He comes from Kasese. He's here moderating a panel in Kampala. Is it safe to say he migrated? Yeah, I migrated somewhere, from somewhere. You did as well. You were at a university. You did. There's an interesting story I need to capture. So there's a beautiful lady that has a migration story right here. Hi, how are you?
I'm fine.
So what's your name and where do you come from?
I'm Christine and I come from Rwanda.
Christine comes from Rwanda. Clap for that. And how many of us come from any other East African country other than Uganda? Proudly. Proudly. Just put your hand up if you come from any other country other than Uganda. We welcome you. Feel at home. It is Africa. You are at home, yes? I wear 2 countries for starters because I feel I belong to any country I choose to belong to, yes? Absolutely. It has been an amazing, amazing start to media and migration. Today is MCI and CAS Day, and we're talking about migration, particularly safe migration. Now, are we good? Because I'm moving to the exciting part. If you could tell the vibes that I have, I'm moving to a very exciting part, and I need the room to have some energy. DJ Ree, give me one song. One song. I would love that we all stand up and do what the song says. Yes? We do what the song says. If I said to the left, we move to the left. If I say to the right, we move to the right. If I say low, we go low. If I say high, we go high. Yes? Let's get up. We need to stretch. Yes, DJ. So DJ and I are tasked to make sure the vibe is good, but also to stretch. It's important that we have that energizer, yes? DJ, we are ready, we are stretching. Give yourself some room, yes? Give your friend some room, yes. DJ, we're ready? Okay. In 3. Or I start with the rhymes, the nursery rhymes. Still have those way tucked up in my head. DJ, we're ready? I'll need the volume turned up a little bit. Yes. Also that Alia is so Anna. Oh, okay. Yes. Let's go. A little bit higher. Hey, who wants to volunteer with the vibes? Yes? Yes? Oh, to the left. Hey, to the right. Hey, down low. Hey, up high. Hey, to the left. Hey, to the right. Hey, down low. Hey, up. Hey, to the left. Hey, to the right. Hey, down low. Hey, up high. Hey, faster. Hey, 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 down low. Hey, up high. Thank you so much. You have been amazing. Take your seats. It was still amazing. You still wanted to do that? I like the energy in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to transition to a double studio situation right now. I am excited because we have a different Media Challenge Expo 2023 experience happening and going around different areas. And right about now, I want to find out if, my people over there covering as much and having as much fun as we possibly are having. I have another studio that I have with me. I just want to find out if Hope, you can hear me. Hope, can you hear me? Absolutely. If you could take your eyes onto the screen, it's going to be a split screen situation happening right there. Hope, how are you doing? Hi, Hope. How are you doing?
Well, I guess it's just the beginning of another interesting milestone and taking journalism to the next level. Tracy, I'm so excited. Can I hear some noise?
Oh my goodness. Speaking of excitement, you need to give those guys some excitement. Are we excited? Let me hear some. Whoa! There we go. Do you feel the mood?
I feel that atmosphere in there.
Yes, how are you doing? First of all, you look like you're still home. I can see flowers. I can see a whole, beautiful ambience right there. Where you at, Hope?
I'm okay. I hear. Well. Tracy, I hear the atmosphere there, and if you are feeling like that, I can imagine what I feel right now. I feel so good, and I am actually in a studio.
Did you say a studio? Wait, did you?
I'm on moving wheels. I'm in a studio and having interesting conversations with someone.
Oh, wow. You actually are on the road. I had no idea. You look very stable where you are. I can hardly imagine that actually you are on the move. Now, how are you doing that? That is the question. But before we get into that, I just want to find out, are you alone in studio today? An interesting setup.
Tracy, I have someone in studio and I cannot wait to reveal
Absolutely exciting. I would use the same words to describe what is happening right now. You telling stories on the road in the comfort that you are in. But also, this means that the story can actually go to the community. So I'm looking at you, going places and having these stories. Let me find out what kind of stories that can be done on the move, or what kind of stories you're working on, or what Dan is working on the move.
Great. And Tracy, this right here is a catalyst of conversations that transcends across boundaries that goes to different local communities. And like I said, with me, I have Dan Ayomare, who is a community reporter, and he's going to tell us more about community reporting and how this connects, how we can connect media to local communities. Ayomare, you're most welcome.
Wait.
I couldn't wait to sing that song. It's really, really amazing that now we can take the stories back to the communities.
Yeah.
Was my voice that bad?
You have a very interesting voice, and I cannot wait to hear when you see what you're telling us. Take us away. How do you feel about this? What does this mean to you as a community reporter? What does this actually mean to you?
Bring stories to you. Yeah, it means a lot to be able to do stories and actually take them back to communities. And this is a dream. This was a dream. Now it's reality.
It's reality.
Yeah, we can drive anywhere. We can go anywhere. We can do stories and actually take them back to communities and talk to people about those stories.
Yeah.
Most times we do stories, and if people are looking for after doing stories, experts.
Yeah.
Find me an expert. Call it journalist. Like, I need to find an expert.
I remember I was planning on this.
Member of parliament, this, member
Technocrats.
yes. But
Here and there.
be able to tell stories and then let the communities who feature in those stories discuss the very issues that are in those stories really amazing. Because for me, it amplifies voice. And the people in the big offices.
Yeah.
So, Miss Esteban, man, I'm in love with you.
Tracy, you heard for yourself. I need to hear from you. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching conversations that have created a new society. And like I said, with me, I have Dan Ayobare and an award-winning community journalist.
Amazing, a huge, beautiful, right here. I just can't, I have no words. Seeing stories that are being taken back to the communities. I'm a journalist, and you go in there, you get the story, and you're like, do the people that I talk about ever see the stories that I have done about them? And to just see a van on the move. It is a van, it is a moving studio, it is moving stories, literally, that we are witnessing right now. Quite a groundbreaking experience for the audience, a groundbreaking experience for journalists, especially community journalists that are doing stories that are about them.
Maybe to go deeper, I want to engage community, I want to engage the ladies and gentlemen that you have there. I want to hear what did they understand by community journalism.
Thank you so much. At your pleasure, I just want to find out from Esther, not to put you on the spot, but community journalism with a future such as, this that makes sure we have moving stories. What comes to mind when we say community journalism?
Community journalism. Community journalism
It looks at the stories that are taking place in the community. And we are glad that Ayebara is in the studio and he's telling us how those stories are good. We got to know that what takes around the communities in different areas. Now, I don't know where they are, and I don't know where they're telling us about the community they are in, but I'm grateful.
That is what is about to happen. People are about to understand truly how the media van works. And that, for me, is a moment I can't wait to happen. Hope, you are about to, get us some more stories. Also, what kind of stories? Ladies and gentlemen, hope if I could just stop you right there. If you could just look at the screen, a different ambience as we move into yet another exciting segment as we launch the MCI SDGs Media Van making its way to the red carpet. Today, like we said, we would be launching something beautiful just right there. The performing troupe, making a whole performance to usher in the latest media baby in town. If you could just, the mood right there, exciting, ushered in on the red carpet is a phenomenal experience right there. Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, MCI, coming in grand style. If you could see more stories that are about to be written, that are about to be told using that beautiful baby, if I might say. We told you would be launched something great, something beautiful, and this has been a moment that we've really waited for. If you look at the screen right there, today we launch the MCI SDGs Media Van. Yes, the mood is amazing. I mean, look at that. I am literally, I have goosebumps, that's for one. I can't wait to be where do we register to be the first people to have stories done? Are you excited? No, we need to do better. Are we excited? We are coming to your uni. We are coming to that community. We are going to do amazing podcasts. And for me, this that can go to, Gulu, Kabela Maido, Kasese, Fort Poto. We could stage this studio somewhere, yeah? Anywhere, and just have content, yes? Are you excited? Oh my God, look at that. Beautiful performance by the troupe. Oh wow, that is amazing. A huge round of applause one more time. Aerial shots of the MCI SG's media van, and as you can see, recordings already happening. It is stories on the move. It is, unprecedented. If you've seen this happen for local journalism, feel free to put your hand. For local journalism, community journalism, this is unprecedented, and we can't truly wait to see what this is all about. We will be launching, and of course, we'll be joined by the country director of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung and the CEO of Media Challenge Initiative. They will be doing the launch of the MCI's SDG van. Now, keep your eyes on the screen. This is three-way. It's me here, the van, and the activity that is happening on that red carpet. You could just zoom in. Who wants to take a guess where they are? They're right where? Right here? Really? You think so? What gave it away? Amazing. But I just want to find out in the room, what kind of story would you want to do in the MCI SG's van? What kind of story comes to mind?
Kind of story like
If you look, sorry if I could take you back, a groundbreaking, let's a huge round of applause. A huge round of applause. A country director, Conrad Adenauer Stifter, and the CEO of Media Challenge Initiative, Confetti, quite groundbreaking. We finally launched the latest media innovation in town. We can tell stories from anywhere and everywhere. We have prayed for this moment. We have worked for this moment. And finally, the two partners pulling off the biggest and the most exciting media innovation in town. Are we excited? Wow. We're talking about this, and I now want us to really look at the tour. They're going to give us the tour of what actually is in the van. Looking through the production. So that is where the production is done. So what Dan was doing, what the reporter was with. Yes.
And then the guy ranted for 10 full minutes. Just speaking and pouring out his heart. Pouring out his heart. And for me, that meant a lot. Because, I mean, it made me realize that indeed these guys never get chances to talk about their issues. They watch TV, they see people talk about their issues, and I think sometimes they are at peace, they are annoyed. Because
Jubilation, yeah?
and when they start talking, you realize that they don't really relate. They are out of touch with the reality. So for me, that's why it's more important to surely tell these stories.
Live interaction of what is happening as Mr. Abbas Mpindi and Honor Raceman join that.
We want to understand how to feel.
A beautiful, beautiful morning.
Just to give them a platform with such a van, for them to move with us, talk about issues on moving wheels. Just imagine, just imagine back in this van in the old taxi van.
Interesting, interesting, interesting to say the least. I wanted to find out, coming back, I mean, guys, first, let's do a huge round of applause for this mega launch that has happened right there. Now, I want to find out, again, to our stories, yes? What kind of story would you want to do in this beautiful, beautiful van?
my life story.
Your Your life story. Let's clap for that. I mean, if it inspires you to tell us your most intimate parts of the story, then I think you feel comfortable enough, right? It looked comfortable. Let me find out. What kind of story would you want to do in this van?
Investigative stories.
Investigative stories, right? So what would happen? You would park it somewhere quietly and then... Interesting insights. What kind of story do you want to have done in the van? What kind of content?
The crime stories.
The crime stories. Crime stories.
Yeah.
And why do you say crime stories?
Because many people are actually, it's in Uganda, you're guilty before innocent, before proven innocent, and very many people are there craving and yet they are guilty. So I would like to cover such stories.
She would like to cover such stories. I'm looking for like interesting people who want to do music videos. You look like you want to do a music video.
Well, true. I would love to have my song presented in such a studio and also add my voice heard in the local community, more so down there, the streets of Kabalagala, the streets of Chiaye, Nankulabi, where I come from.
Oh, wow, interesting stories. Let me find out from the panelists, that took part earlier in the conversations on migration and the media and, how we cover those stories. What kind of stories would you want to see done in this kind of van?
Thank you so much. What kind of stories? What you need to know is that the story you tell, one, determines on how people think, how people will act, how agendas will be set by policymakers, but also inform how migrants move. So all the stories you're going to tell in that van and reaching everyone should matter and should cover those aspects. Thank you very much.
Thank you, too. Insightful. Let's move over to Joram. Joram always has the energy and the vibe, yes? What kind of story would you do in this van? Or what kind of content do you think would, thrive in this van?
Honestly, I'll do a press launch, like a launch of a product in there. Imagine these girls just flying in from wherever they're flying in, Paris, Milan, or New York, and then get them into that and then just broadcast everything, telling their stories in that van to the world. That's what I would do.
I mean, when Joram speaks, I, for some reason, feel like I'm the girl. Like, I was pausing so that he's like, yeah, you can pass. But that's for another day. Thank you so much. I look forward to that kind of many stories. And of course, do you know who has to tell these stories? Ladies and gentlemen, all eyes to the door. Let's stand up and clap for the baddest, the most beautiful media van in the region. Oh my goodness, congratulations. Media Challenge, Conrad Adenauer Stiftung coming together and giving us, please, you might sit. Oh wow, oh wow. So for those of us that were over here, you had no idea the kind of excitement that we had here. The performance, the van, what it could do, the young journalists in there. I mean, first of all, how are you feeling? Anna, Anna, how are you feeling about this day?
Crazy, absolutely emotional, excited.
Yes.
I knew that the emotions were there from the beginning, so I was soaking each and every moment. But I realized I need to do some more running, because going up and down.
One thing the van can do is bring you to the fourth floor.
Yes.
True. But interesting, for all of us that were here, we had goosebumps for a moment there to just see what a beautiful thing that is, but also the impact it will have on journalism, on community journalism, on stories being told. A moment ago, I asked in the room what kind of stories they would wish to have done in this kind of studio, and amazing. We had product launches. Joram wants to fly in the Milan and Italy and New York ladies. Make it work. We had people that want to tell their own stories, a personal story, and that it doesn't get more intimate than that. But let's find out from you. Looking back, this idea to have a media van that, you know, could help take stories back into the communities. If you could take us back, what was the initial thought process, and why did it matter that we have, I mean, we have studios, but why did it really matter that we have something like this? I'll start with Abbas.
So yes, in 2018, we organized a conference titled Reporting Media Coverage of Climate Change. And one of the results or offspring of the conference was a moving studio that can go to communities to create awareness about climate change, but also to just give opportunities for young journalists to get out and go do stories with the community. And then we could also have fun. So silent disco, as you create awareness in the community, artist performances. Well, it was a very expensive project, so no one believed in it. Until we met Anna and we said, you know, there is this idea. But of course, one of those components was why limit it to climate change when it could cover the whole entire sustainable development goals. And that's how it came to life. So big shout out to Cass, of course, and Anna, who believed in the idea from the beginning.
Let's clap right there.
And, so what you see there is a newsroom on wheels, basically. Yes. So you've got in a newsroom, you put it on wheels. We have Solutions Now Africa, that is documented Joram's story. And so they will do the same, but this time around they have an easier studio to move in. They can edit everything on the move. They can host conversations on the move. They can work with the community with the same facility as well. So,
wow, let's clap for that. First, I mean, some people say speak it into existence. Someone thought about that the year he spoke about, and to have it, you know, here today, Ribbon's Cat, and, you know, a real product, could not have happened without the support of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung. And Anna, I want to ask you this question. I mean, so many people didn't believe in the idea. First of all, it was very expensive, but also it's media. Why? So I want to find out from you, why is it so important now more than ever that we invest in the media, but we also invest in this kind of media that then goes all the way to the communities?
Thank you, Tracy. Let me just give me 1 more minute before I come back to your question. Because I also want to get myself back to that pitch. And that happened in 2020. So maybe the idea was born in 2018. I came in 2020 here, and these guys were just setting up the hub. It was under renovation. You could really smell the paint. You saw people everywhere, construction workers. But you know how it also felt? It felt like a place for visions to happen. A place where people dream, a place where they want their dreams to become reality. And then we went into that room, and it was my very first meeting with the entire team, and they pitched this idea of the bus. And it was the last one for them to pitch, like they were doing everything else, and by the way, we also have this idea. And I just came from Germany, where Kass has a comparable bus, where it takes conversations about democracy to the community. And I said, well, I think that could work with us as well. Now, 3 years later, my God, I think we didn't know what we would face on our way to get here today. And this is part of the excitement because, wow, we had to overcome many challenges. And this is also, and it is important for me to mention it here, guys, believe in your dreams, hold on to these dreams, but also work hard. Work hard to make these dreams actually happen. 3 years, we're not just like, oh, idea, let's pitch it then to the headquarters, and now we can cut the ribbon. Visits to different sellers, legal frameworks, legal contracts, taking it to the ministry in Germany, getting it back, getting the van out to Kenya to be remodeled, going back, coming with the van here, hours and hours with URA in the
it's
URA.
Another story.
So, but now we are here, and because we knew what we wanted to achieve. And what is it? And this brings me back to your question. I know many people nowadays love social media. They use social media to get informed. But MCI and CAS, we strongly believe in the importance of local stories and local reporters. Because we think that the starting point to understand how media works, the starting point to get connected to the media, the starting point to appreciate facts and fall in love with the truth and facts, and to become resilient to misinformation, to disinformation, starts in the communities where you can actually check these facts. When local reporters report about what is happening in the community, you as a community member, you can step out and you can double check what is being reported. And we strongly believe that without media, democracy cannot function. But media has to earn the trust of the people, that the stories that the media is telling are true stories. And the other aspect of it, we have a very young population here in Uganda, very, very young. And for them it is important to have a vision for their future. To have a vision, you need to know that something really matters in your life. Values do matter in your life. Hard working does matter in your life. Discipline matters in your life. But also truth matters in your life. And when you have this experience, we believe, you will be transformed. You will be a different human being. You will not run after short-term goals, but rather think long-term. Invest in your future. And bringing this van to the communities, when the stories are being told, local stories, they do matter. But also people who appear in these stories, they need to watch the stories. They need to recognize themselves in these stories. They need to understand that they, as human beings, they matter. And this is their story. And so this project is meant to collect stories, to produce stories, but also to show the stories to those people who have been part of the story, so that they feel empowered, that they feel that they are subjects of the stories and not just objects. And I'm sure Abbas is going to say much more, but let me conclude just with one aspect. As we are bringing collaborative journalism to the communities, where local reporters, local journalists can work also with journalists from Kampala, from the big media houses, but also with international journalists, their stories will also move they will move to the city, they will move also to social media. And what we want to make happen is the next step, that these stories also move internationally, and that we tell the story of the community, the stories of Uganda, outside of Uganda.
Powerful. Let's clap for that. Abbas, I just want to find out from you. Someone out there is asking, is it for just journalists? What kind of content is it supposed to do? How do I get involved? Especially the young journalists in this room. Could you kindly highlight, how it works, how it intends to work, and for whom the collaborations are for?
I was going to say it's just for MCI, no one else. But the title for today's, for the session today is Moving Stories. So we started with migration, which is like really moving stories. We had Joram moving on the runway. We're now launching the van, which is now moving literally stories and taking them to the people, right? And in the evening, we'll have another session on, identities, like how the media shapes. So what we envision is how we can move storytelling, journalism, and reach each and every person. And again, it's a vision, really, right? So one part is imagine young journalists. We come to your universities. Usually we set up in your classrooms. Now we don't have to do that. Now we'll just pack this machine and you can walk in and practice podcasting, radio. So the studio is already set there, right? Yeah, please, clap harder. Hey.
Please.
The work is not yet done because now we have to fuel it, we have to pay the drivers, the production team. So so that's one part. But then the same van will come to your university and say, do you have a community story that can change narratives, that can show the world a different side of your community? Then you can say, yes, we have this story. A journalist from Solutions Now Africa will partner with you and you will document that story. Because you don't have equipment, or maybe you have, but they will bring the machines from here and come and do that story with you. In the evening, hopefully the story is done, but if it takes a week to a documentary to be produced, the team will bring back that story to that community and will screen it for representation purposes, but also it's a solution the people should know about it. Then we can work with your community leaders and say, bring the community to watch this documentary. Then we'll have a conversation about that story and that solution and what the community needs to do. Put the stories there, let the stories determine the power that the community has, right? That's one. There are many parts to this piece. There are pieces around media literacy and raising awareness about, misinformation and fake news within the community. It's a training. There's also the fun part of it, because around it, the way you've seen the red carpet, we will turn that into a whole SDG, Sustainable Development Goals vibe space, so that people can actually learn about okay, let me visualize it for you, because maybe saying it like that won't. So we come to your community, we park there, we set the activation outside, just like you see our branding, but with sustainable development games. So it will be five-a-side soccer, and people are playing, but with a twist of sustainable development goals. The idea is to help communities also understand these, they already are working on these things, but now it's just to contextualize them and make sure that we drive that information home in a fun way, in an active way, but also at the end of the day be able to showcase the stories that the newsroom will be doing. That's the whole vision and the whole vibe around this MCI SDGs Media Fund. Yes.
Amazing. That is about to be a whole vibe in your community. Whose community should go first? And I wait again.
Shout
Which
out.
community? Shout out. Seka, Nakawa, something like that. No? Okay, fine. We will pitch. I think at some point, local journal, Kasese has come up strongly over there. Yeah, Kongs. Interesting. But now, the launch is not done yet.
Yes.
There's a part of this launch that really needs to be cut and contextualized as well. And so, ladies and gentlemen, first, please clap for Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, Country Director, Ms. Anna Reisman, and the CEO of Media Challenge Initiative, Mr. Mpini Abbas, the teams behind this. And now they walk towards the cake. I'll ask DJ and the cake lady, photography. Guys in the room, I need vibes on vibes. Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip! Hip hip! In 3, 2, 1, yes! Hey! And the cake is cut. Finally launching the MCI SDGs Media Van. A beautiful second day of the Media Challenge Expo 2022. A jubilation right here, right now. That cake will be shared with everyone in the room. Don't forget to tag us in all the photos, the MCI SDGs van. Please do show to. The hashtag is the Media Expo 2023. So the hashtag is Media Expo UG. Do take pictures, and of course the van will be at the red carpet. Feel free to go by, pass by, take photos, and be sure to vroom. Who remembers the vroom? Yes, you remember? So we did do some vroom activations, and it was a vibe. So this was what we were talking about, and I'm glad that you were all here to witness a beautiful launch of the MCI SDGs Media Van. We are going back into one last session before we break off for lunch. Like I said, we need the energy, so DJ, I need everyone up one more time. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Let's all stand up. We do to the left, to the right. I need volunteers. I saw my vibe people at the back. Come join me. I can't do this alone. I saw vibe. Should I take it to universities? Hey, clap, clap. I have volunteers for this vibe session. I told you it's fun. It has to be fun. Yes. Hey, people are clapping. Wait, I'm chilling with celebs. Hi, how are you? What's your name?
I'm Essie.
Essie, which university are you repping?
I'm from Kampala International University.
Make some noise for Team KIU. Oh, wow, it is going down. Hi, how are you? What's your name? Which university are you representing?
I'm called Katamba Julius from St. Lawrence University.
Slow at the building. Yes, moving over.
Yeah, my name is Frank Boris, and I'm representing UMCAT School of Journalism.
UMCAT, say yeah. Okay, your name?
Shamim Kiza is my name from YMCA Comprehensive Institute Wandege.
YMCA is in the building, and?
Sobra Nakasa, I'm representing Maltech Business School.
Maltech Business School.
Helena Nwasima representing the mighty university, Makerere University.
Makerere, oi. Okay, so we have the 7 are here. Are they 7? It's okay. Hey, someone is representing the last. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So for those of you that don't know, yes, it's the Media Expo 2023. We're celebrating so many things, but also that in our conversations on the last day, we had the grand finale of the National Newsroom Contest. Who's excited for that part as well? On Friday, be sure to be here. But so today we are awarding Max, a little bit front. We're awarding Max for vibe. We're checking the vibe. It's day 2. The vibe has to be vibing. It has to vibe SDG-wise. It has to vibe Expo-wise. It has to vibe media-wise. DJ Ree, give me a tune, and let's see the energy in this room. Yes? The rest of us, we just follow. Yes. Even me, I follow. Let's go. Okay. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Space yourselves. One by one, you come, you give us a stroke. If we don't feel it, we don't dance. Okay, let's go. Let's have the first one. Let's go. Hey. Hey, hey, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Okay. Hey, 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 let's go. One time. Hey, one time. Please do. Hey, okay, okay. Hey, it's going down. 1, 2, 1, 2. Interesting, interesting. Okay, let's have the second one. Second one, second one, second one. Let's go. What are we doing? Okay. All right. Hey, hey. Let's go. Wait, okay, that is, okay. All right. Make sure you're dancing. Please don't stay seated. Okay, one more, one more, one more, one more. Another one, another one, another one. Okay, Umkat, what's happening? Uh-huh. Hey. Hey. Thank you so much, Umkat. Next, let's have. All right. Hey. 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 Let's go down. Let's go. Taking it down. All the way up. Check the vibes. Look at the vibes. Please don't feel shy. Let's get the mood. All right. Let's have the next university. Multitech. Multitech. Let's go. 1, 2. 1, 2. Let's go. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 2. Let's go. Thank you, Multitech. Let's have Makara University one more time. Let's go. Vibe check. Vibe check. Let's go. 1, 2. 1, 2. Make sure you're dancing. Make sure you're grooving. Make sure you're grooving. Yes, Makara University. Thank you so much. Let's have the one other university. Victoria University. Let's go. 1, 2. Oh. Hey. Let's go. Let's go. Thank you so much to all of you. A huge round of applause from the different universities. And we hope, ladies and gentlemen, please do take your seats. I hope that is enough energizer. You're excited? Now, let me hope that I'm just hoping the stories also have vibes. Yes? Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're excited to be moving to our next panel and to moderate that beautiful panel. Ladies and gentlemen, she has so many things she is, but the one thing that I am very proudly associated with this particular moderator is that we are both MCI fellows. Yes. The rest I can forget, but that one is high on the radar. Ladies and gentlemen, she has graced the newsroom at The Nation Media as a reporter. She currently is a communications officer, communications and advocacy officer at Reproductive Health Uganda. Put your hands together for Miss Olivia Komanjisha, who is going to moderate our next panel. It's going to be energy and vibes. Yes. Isn't she smart? A bigger round of applause. Yes. Energy. Thank you so much. Olivia, over to you.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you? Are you happy? Are you not happy for the media challenge? Congratulations to the Media Challenge Initiative and Conrad Adinoa Steve Tang for launching the SDGs Media Van, right? Do we even understand what SDGs are? Do we? Okay, for this panel, we are going to majorly talk about the SDGs. I mean, they've been talking about the SDGs Media Van, so we're going to try and break it down and why this van comes in handy. And to start off, I want to use a quote that the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, said, saying that unless we act now, the 2030 agenda will become an epitaph for a world that might have been. Do we know an epitaph? Do we know an epitaph? So if we do not act now, the SDGs, which is the 2030 agenda, will just be something that we would have loved the world to be. So to start off, I have a rich panel that is going to help us dissect, break down, and help us understand. To start with, I have Mrs. Carol Beyanga. Put your hands together for Mrs. Carol Beyanga. She is an editor and a media consultant with experience in working with print, titles, as well as digital platforms. We all know her from the Daily Monitor. She has mentored most of us here, and she has been a big mentor for everyone who has been through the Media Challenge Initiative. Thank you, Carol. And next we have Mr. Onesmus Kansime. Put your hands together for Mr. Onesmus. He currently works at the Office of the Prime Minister, which is the Secretariat for the Sustainable Development Goals in Uganda. I think this is the right panel for this topic. Thirdly, we have Miss Ruth Chitamirike. Put your hands together for Ruth. Ruth currently works at the Austrian Embassy Development Corporation in Uganda as the Governance, Access to Justice and Human Rights Officer. And lastly, but not least, we have Dr. Patricia K. Litho. She is currently serving as the board chair for the Uganda Media Women's Association and a board director at the Vision Group. As she makes her way, thank you so much, Doctor. Okay, I wanted us to first understand what the SDGs are. In full, they are the Sustainable Development Goals. And in September 2000, leaders of 189 countries gathered at the United Nations headquarters and signed the historic United Nations Millennium Declaration. Do we know about the MDGs? Okay. Yeah, so the MDGs were revolutionary in providing a common language to reach global agreement. The 8 goals, then there were 8 goals before the 2014 UN General Assembly Open Working Group that proposed a document containing 17 goals, which we now call the Sustainable Development Goals. They are the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. They address global challenges we face, including those related to poverty, inequality, climate change, among others, and running under the tagline, leave no one behind. Okay? So, I want to start by asking you, do we know what these SDGs are? Who knows at least 3 SDGs before we dive into the conversation? Who can stand up and tell me at least 3 SDGs? Anyone? I mean, they are printed on the boxes in here. Can't we just copy at least? Look around, look around. I need 3, at least 3, for me to understand that the audience we're working with actually understands what we're talking about. Okay, there's a lady here. Please stand up. You can actually come here and tell us your 3 SDGs. I want 3. So I don't want anyone to copy, but I am disappointed because MCI actually printed these SDGs on the boxes. There is a microphone.
Thank you. We have zero hunger, gender equality, affordable and clean energy.
No. Thank you. You can sit down. Guys, when I said we should copy, I didn't mean it literally. She's literally reading around as she moves. Okay, thank you very much. That's a good start, but there are 17 goals, and these goals are interlinked. To achieve one, you must achieve the other. So you cannot achieve one while leaving the other behind. Now, to start with, I'm going to start with Mr. Onesmus, who sits at the Secretariat for SDGs. Today, the Media Challenge Initiative, together with CAS, has launched the SDGs Media Van. As someone in that docket and in that office, how does that make you feel, given the 7 years we are left with to the 2030 agenda?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. The SDG media van, we have come up with a SDG localization guidelines to make sure that we create awareness and the consciousness about the sustainable development goals amongst people countrywide. And one of the approaches in those guidelines was having a regional SDG van. But in the guidelines, we had put it as a bombardier so that we can always move around these regions to local communities, do local stories on SDGs, local reporting and local governments about what they are doing to attain the Sustainable Development Goals. For me, it's a great move that now the MCI has actually gone ahead of the rollout of these guidelines and has come up with this SDGs van. If you look at Goal 17 on partnerships, on local, global, and national solidarity for the delivery on the Sustainable Development Goals, I think that the private sector and the NGOs are doing great work, even in creating awareness. And to me, the Sustainable Development Goals Media Van is a great initiative, and I feel proud that it is something that we have had taking off, and above all, from a partner's angle. I thank you so much about that.
I think that deserves a hand clap because MCI and CAS just pushed out the bombardier, you know. Okay, thank you very much, Onesimus. I think that sets the pace for us. You talked about the strategies that you've put in place to localize the SDGs, but also the partnerships, the private sector, the NGOs, and media is an important component when you want to, you know, localize. You must create awareness about the SDGs. Why I started by asking these people if they know about the SDGs was to try and know if they actually know about them. So there's that role that the media plays when it comes to creating awareness. So why do you think, again to you, why is it important for you, especially your office, to collaborate with local media, especially now using the van that's going to go to different communities to ensure that they amplify and tell the different SDG stories?
Local media is very important. The principle of sustainable development is leaving no one behind and reaching the farthest first. To reach those who are left behind and farthest, we need the intervention of local media. A lot of the information about the Sustainable Development Goals is lost in translation. A lot of it is in English. Speaking to people who as far as, what's the farthest district? As far as Hoima, as far as Moyo, as far as Adjumani, would need to speak them in the language they understand about the Sustainable Development Goals. We as individuals and institutions are implementing Sustainable Development Goals unconsciously. But if this information about the SDGs keeps lost in the translation, then we cannot have citizens that are conscious about Sustainable Development Goals. It is one thing being aware, it is another thing being cautious. Because if you are conscious, if you get citizens conscious about the Sustainable Development Goals, then we have local and individual action. Telling local stories, we also have issues on disaggregation. Would want to tell rural and urban stories. Much of the stories at the moment that are getting to the limelight are urban stories. We are lacking the coverage on the local stories, on the rural stories, which the local media can help us get. The other is that we live in a multicultural environment with different development and socio-economic contexts. And it is important that the local media, through these local stories, brings out these diverse contexts about the implementation of sustainable development goals. We have local policy actions. There are a lot of best practices at the local level, but we never get to know about them for scale-up. But if these local stories could bring out these local policy actions on board, we get to know about them, then they can be scaled up, not only for the benefit of those communities, but for the entire country. And it's not that government has not been considering partnering with media in the rollout and implementation of Sustainable Development Goals. We have a whole technical working group on popularization and communication for the SDGs. And this is spearheaded by the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance, and is also meant to work with media houses to ensure that communication on public service, public sector performance is relayed to the citizens, and also facilitate a feedback mechanism that if government is communicating, for example, on Goal 4 on quality education, what is the feedback, the local feedback on student enrollment? What is the local feedback on equality in enrollment amongst male and female students? And as government, how do we take up this feedback and then ensure that there is reform in the education sector? And we cannot have that if we do not have local stories from the grassroots, the stories about the people who are farthest left behind for us to work with. And of course, government has also come up with other initiatives. If you look at the Government Citizens Interaction Center, it is also meant to interact with the citizens on government service delivery and what the citizens think the government can do to make sure that there is better service delivery. Even you can look at the legal instruments. If you look at the 1995 Constitution, I think it's Article 23, 24, and 49, which talk about access to information. You have also Access to Information Acts and many other legal instruments that are in existence that are meant to enable an interaction between government and the citizens. Lastly, local government is very important in the service delivery and also in the accelerated delivery on the Sustainable Development Goals. It is only through local journalism that a platform between local government leaders, both technical and political wings, can be created, have a conversation with the local citizens, with the citizens in the rural areas and also within the urban areas, so that we get this feedback even at the local government level. We learn, we know the priorities which we should be setting. We are getting to the next phase of the comprehensive development planning for the National Development Plan 4. Media should be facilitating conversations, from which conversations the local governments are going to get information on what priorities to work on in the next phase of planning from 2025 up to 2030.
Okay, thank you very much, Onesmus. And you've talked about facilitation and the different partnerships, that are ideal to ensuring that, we achieve the 2030 global agenda. I'm going to go to Ms. Carol Bayanga. Is the media, I'll start with two questions. Is the media empowered to tell SDG stories?
So no, you knows.
Hello. Yes, that's an interesting question that you asked, Olivia. I wanted to ask back how exactly you meant that, but I believe that my answer is yes and no. Yes, because the media has a platform with which to share this information. The media has the responsibility with which to share this information. I think the area that we need to think about is the media aware about how important the SDGs are? Is the media, putting it as a priority in the way they cover the stories, not just picking one or two areas, but looking at it as a whole, as the SDGs. So I believe that the media does have the power, does have the tools within which to share this information, but now needs to begin to think about it as a priority in terms of how to tell the stories, in terms of when to tell the stories, and the formats in which to tell them so that people are interested in them. Because, if you just go and say SDGs, that's a long, the word itself is long, how do people understand it? So I think that the media needs to pick up on these areas and be able to do a good job about that.
Your answer was going to lead to my next question. And you said it's a yes and no. And my next question was going to be, based on your answer, you said, does the media actually know how important it is to tell these stories? You were in a media house for the longest time. Was your media house telling these stories? And how were you telling these stories? You know, I will talk about like health, hunger. Every year you boss will come and issue statistics, and we shall just come, print them and put them in the papers and issue them out. How are we telling the SDG stories? Are we telling these stories, and how are we telling these stories to ensure that the communities actually understand what the SDGs are?
Yeah, that's a good point, Gloria. I believe we are telling stories about, for example, gender. I believe we are telling stories about, you know, poverty. But are we telling them as what they are in terms of SDGs? I'm not sure. And I think that there are a number of reasons for this. I remember in a conversation, a similar conversation we had with Patricia some time back. One of the things is, I think, fatigue. I remember the media really covered the MDGs so well. There was, you know, it was highlighted. We kept on track year after year. How far have we gone? What, you know, what has Kenya done? What has, you know, other countries done? We really covered that well. So when it came to SDGs, I saw a sort of a drop, you know, across the media. And I think there was fatigue because having covered this before, and then it's something, you know, it comes up again, similar but not quite. So I want to believe there has been a bit of fatigue in that area. But that does not mean we should stop. I think the onus is on us to figure out how do we do this thing creatively, because it is important. And I believe the media still covers these areas. It still does, but they cover them as separate, you know, separate topics, separate areas that they talk about. But when you cover it as a whole and you begin to, like you said, talk about how they are linked to each other, what is necessary for people to understand, how to make a person, you know, sometimes even some of us in this room, I'm not sure, like, you know, I don't know that not all of us know all the 17 SDGs. Not all of us, if I ask you to say, what does sustainable mean? How many will answer very, you know, correctly? Already. So the idea for us to unpack that and make it known to the, you know, to every individual and say, this is what sustainable means, this is what goals means, this is your part, this is the government's part, that is what we need to do to be able to tell that story.
Thank you so much. I think what you're saying literally shows that the achievement of these goals hinges on collaboration and partnerships and ensuring that everyone plays their role, including the media. I'll go to Dr. Patricia. Dr. Patricia, Ms. Kara has talked about the stories that we tell and how we tell the stories, the fatigue in these stories, and how we are telling them as we are individualizing these SDGs. How can we generate reader interest in these stories, or how creatively do you think that the media can now pitch and tell these stories in a way that will even interest the readers? Because most of the times we shall write stories, but they'll be full of statistics, complicated words. If you write for me sustainable development goals, I don't think my mother in the village will be interested to read this. So how do we generate reader interest in telling these stories, especially in the different newsrooms where we thrive?
Thank you. I'd like to sort of detour a bit to what Carol said, if it allow me, but I'll come back to the question. Does the media have capacity to tell these stories? I think that's where we have to start from. And there are 17. 17 is quite a lot to keep in the head. Personally, as being part of Media Women's Association, I really focus on SDG 5, gender equality. How does that link to journalism? But also being part of a vision group, I find myself having to deal with all of them. So to me, the stories of the 17 SDGs are being told, just not linked the way we would want them to do. Because if you look at different aspects of equality, we see it there. If you look at poverty, it's all, the story has always been told. If you look at zero hunger, if you look at, well, there are so many, I even forget, peace and justice, all these things have been told. But how do we align them? How do we make them smart? I think in journalism, one of the first things I learned is a word called KISS, keep it simple, silly. Do we keep it simple, silly, or do we just regurgitate a document from statistics and throw in the figures? Do we break this down to the way that is understandable? And I think for me, that is where the trick is. So for me, the collaboration and partnership you talked about is very important, because then you make these things relatable. If I'm talking about poverty, what does it mean to my grandmother in Tororo? Poverty. And you know, sometimes there's a way we define poverty, which maybe my grandmother, she doesn't consider herself poor. But me in Kampala, when I go to the village, I might think, oh, these people are poor, but they have everything they need, which I don't actually. They have milk from their cows, they have a garden, they have a lot of land. I don't even have 50 by 25. You know, things like that. So what is poverty? How do we relate it to someone's specific context? Do we look at diverse perspectives? Do we look at community engagement? Do we look at cultural relevance? Do we tailor it to these communities? It's not enough to make it humorous. It's not enough to make it simple. What does it mean? I like it when he talked about how people perceive models. Like we all grow up, many of us want to be models, but because of that stigma of how they look at it, like, oh, I would rather stick with journalism, I'd rather stick with this. And for me, the van is exciting. Congratulations, by the way. The story, the narrative, the excitement with the van, I think that is one way we're going to make SDG relevant. Because when someone said, I just wonder what it will feel like if we go to the old park. It will be very different when you drive maybe to the bus park. It will be very different when you drive to a university. It will be very different. For me, contextualizing, making relevance, tailoring to a specific group, going to a primary school, going to maybe a place with people with disability. I would just like to speak to that. You know, for the longest time in my life, I've heard about people talking about disability and access, and until I got into this partial disability. Today, I almost cried. I called the bus and I'm like, send a strong man to get me up there. You know, once I was told the lift was not working. There are things we take for granted until we experience. So, to me, what the van is going to do, I hope it will do that, is to make these things relatable. When we talk about poverty, what is poverty in Teso? What is poverty in Karamoja? I know there's a way people look at Karamoja. I've worked a lot in Karamoja. They don't look at themselves the way we look at them. Yes? So we need to understand that cultural perspective and what it means for them. SDG is miles away. When I think randomly about SDG, I think of America, I think of Europe, I think of UK. How do I make SDG sound Uganda, sound Tororo, sound female, sound gender sensitive to me? We need to make those linkages. So these little stories can build into what Uganda, or what these particular districts describe as poverty. How does Uganda then, maybe if we look at our annual budgets, you know, very reactionary, we all analyze it then. But how do we feed into that? How does that feed into the African or East African? They have a vision. African Union has a vision. How does that fit into the global? These little stories build into the other. So to me, when we tell these stories and post them online, the quickest way it will become global and do all these different things. How do we do those linkages? So for me, when I go down with the van I think is the most relatable at the moment. I would like to tell a story of equity, for instance. Yes? A story of equity. Let's look at PLE. They're talking about all these women giving birth during exams and having to jump right back and write exams. I kept wondering, would I do that? But then we talk about equity, access, education for all. Do they have to go through this? Should we have given them another day? And how does this speak to the provision for education that I don't even know which number that is? Yes, when we talk about equitable access to these so many things. So for me, that is the best way to do it. Get that little local story and try to relate it. Because part of what media does is set an agenda. So when we set an agenda, do we speak to the national provisions? Yes, it's important to hear this voice of this local woman. Speak to them in the way they understand. Abbas was talking about basically doing this, was it an expo something? An event around the van when it builds Community X. But now those in the studio should make those linkages. What is the national provision for SDG 1? What is the national provision for SDG 5? When we go to the Ministry of Gender, is it well-resourced to deal with this SDG? How do we then work globally, partner, collaborate to make sure these are addressed? I could go on forever. You have to stop me.
Thank you very much. I think that's a well-deserved hand clap, right? You talk a lot about collaboration, localization. I think the issue of localization is one very important issue. And as I speak, I see Ruth nodding her head when I talk about localization of some of most of these SDGs, which we are reflecting on today. Ruth, you work with the Austrian Embassy as the Access to Justice and Human Rights Officer. And we have an SDG goal, that's number 16, talking about peace, justice, and strong institutions. Again, I'll ask you a question that will lead to my other question. Are you content with how the media is telling the peace, justice, and strong institution story? I mean, we now have whatever is happening in the Gaza Strip goes back to peace. We have what's happening in Uganda here. Are you content with how the media is telling this story?
Again, as everyone has been saying, it's a yes and no. Firstly, because when you really look at peace and justice institutions, there is a lot in that whole package. And part of really that institutions I interact with almost every day is the police, the prisons, almost all the judiciary, all these institutions. And say, for example, what the police is doing. There is a section of police brutality. I want to think the media is doing a great job reporting some of these violations that are happening. But also, there are other things. For example, under the police, we have the directorate of, where we have the forensics lab, the DGAL, the government laboratory. And in the, say when there is a crime scene, say it's a sexual gender-based violence offense, there is a rape case that has happened, strips, an investigation officer from police is going to go, a strip is collected and taken to the lab and to really match up this evidence. So there is that part. For example, I really think the forensics is one of the very best institutions we have as a country, and it's doing a lot, especially when it comes to justice for sexual gender-based violence victims, but maybe that part is not being reported. Or for example, we have the courts. When people are going into the courts, because that's also part of what SDG 16 is really covering. We have recently been running special SGBV court sessions where we have a day, and on that day, that particular court session is only going to hear matters that are related to sexual and gender-based violence offenses. So I think these are very beautiful things that are happening. These are very amazing developments in the country, but maybe the media could be strong on the police brutality, but there is part of forensics, which is also part of police. The media could be strong on they have denied them bail, but there are also special SGBV sessions that are happening in this country, and probably people do not know about them. So it's a yes and no, because there are many sides and faces to this coin.
Okay, thank you. When you talked about that the media is doing a lot with reporting about police brutality, I kept on thinking, are they, I mean, because there are some of the people who are affected by police brutality, are the newsrooms telling stories based on what is affecting them or what is affecting the general public? But anyway, to move on, what more do you think, or do you suggest that media houses can do to ensure that the SDG story is told and rightly told and amplified, to ensure that even the local people at the grassroots level are able to contextualize and understand what this story is about, and why is it important anyway to tell this story?
Thank you so much, Olivia. I think mainly to what we need to do around SDGs is simplifying these things. I don't want but I think I could be more relatable to the audience, because probably I'm next to the age, or we are probably in the same age bracket. And I'm happy to see Jerome here. I've passed through his hands through Miss Tourism, Uganda, and I think he was very tough on my walk. He was like, you have a lazy walk. So Now that builds on my point on simplification of these things. The time I was part of the Miss Tourism community, I was representing Busoga, and in there, girls in that community, in the Miss Tourism community, not just Miss Tourism, but even Miss Uganda, those many different pageants, those girls are doing a lot of work, say, for example, my region, keeping girls in school, education, you know, that is work. When I say that I want to make sure that girls are not dropping out of school, when I say that I want to be sure that girls are going to school, one, I'm promoting SDG 4 on quality education, but also there is an aspect on gender equality, that is SDG 5. So I think for the audience, it is important that we break this sort of a bubble of SDGs as a very complicated things, especially to the young people in this room. It's not complicated. Everything you interact with on a daily basis is part of SDGs. When the roads are bad, there is something going wrong with sustainable cities. When you're not served right at the police, when your phone is stolen and no one can track it, there is something happening under SDG 16 on peace, justice, and strong institutions. When, when COVID came and, so for example, Karamoja, the hunger that was there, something is going wrong with the SDG 2 on zero hunger. So SDGs are not complicated. These are things we interact with on a daily basis. Everything around us is actually relating to SDGs. And I think that is where the work is. For example, when my colleague Onesma says that now with the midterm review of the SDGs, there is a lot of work on localization. I think part of the package on localization should be to help people know that we already have Operation Wealth Creation. But as you're reporting on Operation Wealth Creation, lead us to zero poverty, lead us to zero hunger, lead us to the gender equality aspects that are under Operation Wealth Creation. So I think I really congratulate CAS and MCI for the launch of the media van, because in there you are going to have people going down to these very local communities, interact with them. As you're interacting with them, they're going to tell you all these many challenges they are having, but because you're probably coming from a point of advantage, you will be able to tell that this challenge is actually relating to poverty. This challenge is actually relating to SDG number this and this. So I think now to borrow a little from what other colleagues have been saying, there is a lot of fatigue in how we are reporting this. I think the fatigue is actually happening because you're not involving vibrant people like the ones we have in this room. And I'm really happy that CAS and MCI have opened up this space for vibrant young people with great ambition, but also through innovative ways. I would be very happy to make a story on quality education in Busoga region in that bus, in the SDG van. So I think what we need to do, what we need to really do, the work mostly is around helping people understand that yes, it's a global agenda 2030 that sounds scary. As someone said, it sounds like an American boardroom term. But help people understand that this is actually what we interact with every day. We can simplify it for you and help you understand that we actually have an agenda of leave no one behind. So because we are aiming at leaving no one behind, we should actually make this relatable to everyone. And I think one of the best ways to do that is through innovative ways such as the SDG van, but also engaging vibrant people such as the young people in this room. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Thank you very much. I think MCI and CAS have a big task ahead of them. Yeah, that van, a few years from now, we shall come back to look at the results and how you're going to communities and helping these people understand what the SDGs really are. So kudos, but also that's a very big task ahead of you, and I hope you're ready for that task, and Abbas and the rest of the team. Yeah, so to move on, she talked about innovations, Carol, she talked about innovations and creative ways of telling some of these stories. When we look at the innovations, the SDGs van is one of the innovations, but we now have an opportunity, a big opportunity, which is technology. That's social media. We have everyone, okay, not everyone, but most people now running to social media. With your background in digital media, and maybe you can help Onesmus understand, and when he goes back to the boardroom, he'll be able to share with the rest of his team how important and what role can social media, digital media play in popularizing but also amplifying SDGs in the different platforms.
Thank you, Olivia. Just before I answer, I want to ask Ruth, if possible, if we could talk after. I have really, really wanted us to do a story on forensics. I watch Crime Channel too much, way too much, and I'm fascinated by how they're able to, just because of forensics. We did try and we were not able to get through, so if you can get us through, we'd be very excited, because I think it's a story worth telling.
Yeah, sure.
Just basically how forensics, how it's done in Uganda,
Exactly.
how far we are, DNA, how to be. We had an argument with a colleague, and I told him, if someone fires a bullet from this gun, they can track that bullet and know it's, and he refused, and I was like, oh my God. So I think it's a story that we need to tell. I would be very interested. But back to Olivia's question, and that's a good question, Olivia. Social media, whenever we talk about it, there is always, everyone thinks about the positive and the negative. But I think we need to, I think there's so much we can do with social media, and we need to harness it even more than we are doing right now. First of all, everyone here is on some, I am very sure, on some sort of platform, whether that's, Facebook or TikTok or, very many platforms coming up. People are on apps and different things. So, and that is where the trend is. People prefer to go there first, to check out something, to have a good time, to relax, that sort of thing. So it is a place that we need to recognize people are going there. People are interested in information there. How do we get information and put it there in a way that interests them, excites them, and also makes them want to do something? Because that's one thing we've realized in the media, that apart from just saying this is happening, we need to sort of make people feel this is happening and I can do this. This is what I have in my power, whether it's to amplify that message, whether it is to spread it, whether it is to do something in my community, I have that power. So I think that social media is a very good tool. I believe that we need to find out, first of all, statistics, in finding out where are people anyway. There are so many of them. We cannot just say, let's go, we need to find out which are the platforms people in Uganda are interested in. Who are the people we want to target? Is it the youth? Is it a bit older? Is it much younger? Who do we want to target? Why are we targeting them? Is it because we recognize that if we start young, then they will know these things. They will now grow up understanding, knowing, and wanting to do something about it. It is much easier to deal with the younger people. So I think that we need to find out what are the platforms people are on, what do they like to find there, how do we then how do we get that information we want and put it on that platform in a way that is interesting? For example, I have an 11-year-old, we have an 11-year-old, and she's very interested in animation. So if I'm going to talk to her about SDGs, and she's very interested. For example, I keep saying this, whenever she sees a movie with a girl as a hero, she's excited. And she thinks, it's a girl, she's the heroine. So gender equality. How do we make animations, quick, nice ones, for children to understand that it is important that there is gender equality in this country? How do we, create quizzes and games for people to, that's a very fun way to do it. And, you just go online and it's a small quiz to do. And with that quiz, you're finding out more about, zero hunger. What does hunger mean? Which is the most affected part of the country? So there are so many ways and there are so many things we can do using social media, and I believe that the time is ripe. We need to, move with the trends that are coming on. And there are things, they are very possible. It's about who we partner with. It's about knowing what people want to, how they take in information. It is so important to understand how people want to take in information. Some things are best taken in read, some are better watched, some are better heard. So you have to figure out what is the best way to put this information. And I think that's one way social media can be able to put out this very important yet somewhat difficult topic.
Okay, thank you very much, Carol. I see Tracy with her catch box. Tracy? Okay, we're going to open up the panel to the rest of the audience for you to be able to ask questions, though I still have a couple of questions, but let me first allow the audience to ask questions. Any questions in the audience? There is one right here. Okay. You're handing over the box, they should be able to catch it.
Representing KIU University. Well, my question is very simple. Why are some SDGs prioritized and some and others left out?
Thank you very much.
We'll take 2 more questions.
There's a hand behind you.
Okay. All right. I'm Jacob Junior Mungesi from KIU. I want to base on SDG 9 that talks about industry innovation and infrastructure. There is a saying here, usually here, I'm not a Muganda, but I usually hear that I want to only say. And I want to give an example of what happened of recent when there was a football exhibition here in Uganda. There is a feeling I have that sometimes when you report good things about the government, good infrastructures, there is a way the government tends to be reluctant and they don't do on certain things. And here MCI tells us to base on solution journalism. Don't you think if we do that kind of journalism, maybe we shall be making the government a bit reluctant to work on certain things? Thank you.
We'll take 1 more question. I prefer
Okay,
a
thank
lady
you.
right here.
Holding leaders accountable, okay?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Narada Abisagi, coming from Makara University. And I would like Ruth to answer my question, since she highlighted something about quality education. And of recent, I came across an article from Daily Monitor, and it was saying that about 60% of the children who started P1 in 2017 were not able to sit their PLE. So in relation to SDG 4, that highlights quality education, how can the lack of access to quality primary education, resulting in a significant percentage of students failing to sit in for PLE, hinder the achievement of this SDG 4? Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we're going to divide these questions. For the first question, which is about some SDGs being prioritized while others are left out. Onesmus, Dr. Patricia will respond to that. Ruth has her question, and then Carol will respond to the question on solutions journalism. Yeah, let's start with Onesmus.
Thank you so much for that question. All SDGs are given priority, though, like it was stated in the question, the priority is not equal. We have the Sustainable Development Goals aligned to the National Development Plan, to a tune of 90%. But also we believe that in the Sustainable Development Goals are accelerators. That if we achieved goal number 1 on zero poverty, then we are able to achieve the other goals on education, on quality, on good health and well-being, gender equality, decent work and economic growth. So we believe goal number 1 is an accelerator. So when we have limited resources as a nation, we look at these accelerator SDGs. We invest more in them so that in so doing we are achieving the others. If you look at the goal on life below water, that is for countries that have oceans. We do not have oceans here, so that's why we do not have a lot of focus on that goal. And also we do not have data reporting on those goals. These SDGs have 232 data indicators. Uganda reports on 201 indicators. That is to mean that 21 indicators are not relevant for a country. And somehow, somewhere, those goals you think are not given priority are those goals that have those 21 indicators. And maybe to extend on the indicators, Uganda apparently has reports on 121 indicators. That means that out of the 201 indicators applicable to Uganda, 121 have data points. But we have come up with other mechanisms, such as under the data taken working group spearheaded by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. By the end of this year, we should have 154 indicators with data points, and then we can report more effectively.
Okay, thank you very much. Then Dr. Patricia.
Thank you. Why some SDGs seem, I would like to say seem prioritized. I don't think they're actually prioritized. I'd like to bring it back to context. What is the context of Uganda? Uganda has its own national development plan. I don't know how many of us know it. It has over 18 programs. Some of it seem aligned to the SDGs. In the document claims it is aligned to SDGs and other provisions, Vision 2040, and all these kind of things. But what are the priorities for Uganda? And like Carol said earlier, there's a bit of fatigue because after the MDGs, then SDGs, what is the resourcing like? So some SDGs already have the benefit that the grounding was already done, there's capacity building, the sort of sensitization and a lot of awareness creation around it. So you find that there's better appreciation for these SDGs. But also, I don't know if you're talking as a Kampala-based person. I've had the opportunity to work with a government project for over 15 years, the rural electrification. And I had the opportunity to literally go to every part of this country. I can tell you it depends on which part of Uganda you are. Some parts of Uganda will prioritize women, others will prioritize food, others will prioritize education, others will prioritize infrastructure. I would like to disagree with my brother about the issues of the underwater. Uganda, we have so many water bodies. If you go to Mayuge, as a quick example, they're very concerned about the water. And there's a whole conflict around that, how government is dealing with it. The army is arresting people, caning grown-up women in front of their kids and wives, and Basoga have many wives. Water is a concern. It depends on which part of the country you're from. It depends on if you use these water bodies. Are you going to Kalangala? Are you going to, are you around the Choga area? It depends. So how do we package water bodies so that we don't think it's an alien thing, maybe for Kenya because they have Mombasa, they're near Indian Ocean, yes? So it depends on which part of the country one is from, it depends on which resources, it depends on the budget lines, it depends on the bodies that behind there. For me as a recommendation, I would like to see what journalists prioritize. You know when you say that there's fatigue because there was a generation implication why there's fatigue. I would like to defer to a certain extent. For me, how do journalists work together? Carol will tell you or confirm that when we were coming into journalism, it was about scooping. I hope we all know what that term means. Who broke the news first? I don't think it's relevant anymore. I think for me, it's about, for instance, this event, how many journalists are reporting about it? So these days it's about what's trending. How many media houses are able to talk about this? Which media channels are they using? If I go on X, Twitter, I'll find it. Facebook, LinkedIn, radio, TV, podcast. I find everybody talking about MCI, SDGs, the van. Yes? These days, if you're the only one talking about Mabati, sorry for you. That is it. It is a closed chapter. So it's about these collaborations. How can we have a bang effect as media people? Then we won't be asking this question, why are some prioritized? Because Buganda will be talking about cultural aspects, while someone else will be talking about women and SMEs. So these stories are far apart, far in between. It's a drop of milk in the ocean. It disappears. Can we have more collaboration? These influencers who keep the influencers, can we be on the same page, yes? Not just when you're paid. Can we all talk about the van today? I know a lot of you have handles. That is the way we can make these SDGs a priority and visible. And let's care to learn about it. Take pictures of the boxes if that's more interesting. But this information is also available on all these different online platforms. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Patricia. I'll go to Carol and then Ruth. Ruth lastly.
All right, thank you. I think solutions journalism is a beautiful thing. When I got training some time back, I learned that every solution has a challenge. That challenge may be a big challenge, it may be negligible, but every solution comes with its challenge. And so when you report a solution, you also report the challenge. You don't make it look like it is perfect, it has achieved 100%, because if you dig deep, you will find that there's a challenge. For example, women who if there's a water problem, let's say there was a river, there was a stream they were picking at, and now, it's sort of dried, but somehow they came up, a solution, a borehole was built, underwater, they're getting water from underground. As a solution, everyone is happy. But maybe now they have to walk longer, from where the stream is. Maybe someone holds the key to the padlock, to that borehole. And if the man with the key is not there, everyone, so you find that it's a solution, but there's a challenge. So when we report about solutions, we remember that solutions come with challenges, and we report fairly across. So there's no problem with us reporting about solutions. I also think it would be very unfair for us to report only about the unachieved goals that the government has been able to come up with. We must report about the achievements, because then we are seeing this is what works. Can we do it more? Can it be replicated, perhaps, maybe in different ways, but in different places? So solutions journalism is a good thing to do. I don't think we should be afraid about it, thinking that if we are saying this is working, then the government will relax. No, we shall remind them, and as journalists, that's our job. Our job is to report what is happening. We shall thank them for the things they have done, applaud them, show how it has worked, then come back the next day and say, now this one, can you please fix it? We will not. I don't think it would make them reluctant or become lazy to do what they're supposed to do.
Okay. Lastly, Ruth.
Thank you so much. Just to remind the audience, my question was on SDG 4 by an SDG 4 enthusiast who gave us very elaborative statistics on how 60% of the children enrolling at P1 are not sitting for P7. So bringing this back to the conversation we are having now, SDGs, once again, are interconnected, okay? And while we are looking at the situation of many of them not getting to the level of P7, that's why we are having a conversation on local stories and localization of some of these conversations. Why is that important for us to bring it down to a societal level? Because one, you might think that the solution should be construct a school and put it there, but many times just constructing a school is not enough to have children go to that school. That's why, for example, in districts such as Kamuli, they have to go further, and the local governments are putting in place ordinances such as that. I think they have something on alcohol, that beyond 7 p.m. all alcohol places have to be closed, because when someone is drunk, it has an effect on the family, and it will have an effect on whether a child will go to school tomorrow or not. But that is not happening in places such as Luwuka, which probably contributes a big portion to the 60% of those who are not getting to P7. Why? Because this is a sugarcane growing district. And why are children not going to school? Because I don't have food at home, but I can go and be a shamba boy, a shamba girl for the day, and I'll be able to earn 20,000 and take it back home. So while I go to school today, I may not earn 20,000, but me staying in a sugarcane plantation is going to earn me and my family 20,000. So this is why, for us to achieve some of these things, it takes a whole of society approach, but not just a traditional, but also innovative ways such as this. That for you as a growing journalist, when you go to report that story on 60% of them are not getting to the level of P7, can you make variations in Fort Portal? What is happening? Why are the statistics different from Fort Portal to Tororo to Luwuka? Okay? And some of the best practices, such as the alcohol, because I'm aware the alcohol thing is happening both in Kamuli and Fort Portal, and it's working. So maybe as you're reporting, you can highlight some of these things as good practices that can help us journey towards the achievement of this SDG. So I think this is why media comes in, because such stories can only be given perspective. 60% is good, 60% is big, 60% should arouse action, but 60% can only have context if we narrow it down to what is the context of this particular society. Are they a cattle grazing society? Are they predominantly a violent society? So that's why I think young people like you should come in, and probably these opportunities for you to cut out your niche and carry some of these examples as you compare when you're reporting some of these stories. I hope I've answered your question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ruth. Hand clap for my panel. We're nearing the end, but maybe before we close, I'll just give 1 minute to each of the panelists for your, what's that one thing that you'd want to see the media doing different to ensure that they amplify the SDGs? What's that one thing that you want to see the media do different to ensure that the SDGs are amplified and also localized? Whoever is ready can go first. I see Dr. Patricia is set.
Yes, I'm ready. I sort of made the point just to re-emphasize that we should move away from trying to outdo each other, like scooping, and try to work together, try to ensure we all run the same story at the same time so that it has the desired impact. And with that, I think we are able to make SDGs better known. So for instance, if we say this week or today, we're working on SDG 2, so we all work on zero hunger, and then try to focus on those communities that experience this the most. When we are looking about better education, as just elaborately explained about education, then we look at those communities and their specific contexts and what makes a difference. Then there's a bigger impact because everybody's talking about it, then we are trending. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Maybe what I would love to see the media do different, and really media in the sense of the younger generation that is in this room. I think the conversation on SDGs, especially now that 2030 is not many years away from today, gives us as young people an opportunity to establish ourselves. It gives us as young people an opportunity to cut out our niche through recording some of these stories and through reporting some of this progress, and maybe challenges and bringing leaders, like holding leaders accountable. So don't shun away from conversations on SDGs, because in there, I almost every week I'm seeing an announcement for who can report on climate, who can report on these things. So don't shun away from these conversations. These are just giving you an opportunity to become an expert in that area, and probably that is where the resources are going to come from in your career. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Fourth estate theory, media should ensure hold government accountable. Social responsibility theory, media should work towards creating social change. Media should harness the opportunities of digital media to spread the message about the SDGs. Media should work with local government leaders to amplify the local stories and find relevance. The other thing is on creating a media platform on SDGs so that we do not operate as media, we do not operate in silos. Different media houses can come up with a joint platform to make sure that they coordinate their work on SDG reporting and also local stories. The other thing is if you look at citizens' interests, citizens are not interested in input and output indicators reporting. Citizens are interested in outcomes. They are not interested in how much money invested in the road. Okay, some are, but they are more interested in seeing a good road. So media should come in to demystify this administrative reporting and bring it to the citizens on what has been done and what has not yet been done. At the end of the day, we have this bias because citizens, as long as citizens continue to feel that the government is not there to listen and report correctly, and the government believes that the citizens are there to keep complaining, then the collaboration between the citizen and the government is not going to work. But media is there to make sure that this gap, they put a bridge and bring the government and the citizens together to make sure that there is a systemic communication. It is not one way, it is not transactional, but it is simultaneous to ensure that when citizens report to government, there is feedback, There's also use of this feedback for reform and corrective action on how we deliver services, thus improving our public sector performance.
Okay, thank you, Onesmus. Lastly.
Yeah, I think two things for me quickly. One is to, just like what Patricia said, and Ruth in a way, report it uniquely. Because when you report it uniquely, then someone wants to read it. If you report, like I really like the way you talked about, you know, the 60%, where is it coming from? And then you start to go behind and the details, then that interests a reader and you actually make them more knowledgeable. So reporting stories uniquely, contextualizing, like Patricia said. And also, and for me, I've known for as long as I'm a journalist that you read, you learn from different places. So how is Kenya reporting about SDGs? How is India reporting about SDGs? So we find out how they're reporting because they might have unique ways they're doing it. So we find that, we copy it and say, oh, we could copy this style, we could copy this way. They've done the way they've done this documentary or wrote this story or a series or a whole project, we could do that. So finding unique ways. Secondly, partnering with, you know, for example, of course, CAS and MCI, because, and people like Ruth and Nesmas, because they have the knowledge, they have a lot of that knowledge, that research, we don't know it, and not going and saying, Ruth, what do you have to say about it? I mean, okay, that's nice, it's very nice, but partnering with the team and saying, okay, whenever you have reports, share with us. Whenever you have, you know, in events where we can get information, where we can get sources, share with us. So that then when Ruth thinks, when, you know, CAS thinks, they are thinking this media person or this media house, every time a report comes out, every time an innovation comes out, that way we are aware, we understand what's going on, and then we can report better.
Thank you very much. A hand clap to my panel. And maybe lastly from me, Cara talked about partnerships, and with the launch of the SDGs van, I think maybe this is where Onesmus can partner with the MCI to train this vibrant and young lot to ensure that, you know, they can go out there and create change and be the journalists that we've been talking about today. And talking of SDGs, SDG number 20, hunger, I don't want to come in between you and lunch, so we're going to come to the end of this panel. Thank you so much for being a great audience.
Thank you so much, Olivia and the panelists. They have done amazing. Don't you think so? Let's give them a bigger hand clap. Thank you so much. Please do take your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go for that lunch break, allow me ask that you put your eyes on the screen one more time to just contextualize what the MCI SDGs Media Van will do.
When you screen stories done elsewhere, maybe these could be the problems being faced in this other region.
We are saying yet you're still encouraging people to cut down trees.
Such kind of innovations are very, very critical, and they have something to do with the development.
We are looking at basically service delivery and getting feedback from our people, because at times we are unable to reach at the lowest level of our communities.
It was very important to see the journalists we are training, how they are able to interact with the local leaders, to give a face to some of these issues that we are talking about.
A huge round of applause for the production team. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been an amazing first half, all the second day of the Media Challenge Expo 2023. I hope you had very insightful conversations. Did we? Yes? Yes? If we did, let's clap once for the panelists. If we did, let's clap twice for the moderators. If we did, let's clap 3 times for CAS, Uganda, South Sudan. And if we did, let's clap again, thrice for MCI. Thank you so much. You have been amazing. Now, if you think the conversations were amazing, wait and see what we have for you after lunch. It's going to be a quick lunch. I ask that we use approximately 30 minutes so that we are able to get back here and dive yet again into a great conversation about the evolving media landscape here in Uganda. It will be moderated by the one and only Raymond Mujuni. So be sure to catch a quick lunch, be right here, and let's get into it. Also a reminder to the 7 teams of the different newsrooms, please provide one producer in the newsroom, one producer, to make sure you have your jingles and all the other things that you have to work on done. One producer per university. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me invite you for lunch.